just spice it up, you know? Boom. Welcome to Project Foodie. My name is Daniel Holzman. I'm the chef and owner of the Meatball Shop restaurant in New York City. You've just selected Thanksgiving dinner. Typically, our episodes are only available on our app. But since Thanksgiving is all about sharing, we decided to share our Thanksgiving episode with you here on YouTube. I'm gonna be here with you for every second of the process until your meal hits the plate. Feel free to hit pause, rewind, or slow it down whenever you need to. Thanksgiving dinner. This recipe should take about 4 hours and it has 6 steps. We are going to get our turkey roasting. After that, we're gonna start working on our gravy. After that, we're gonna work on our stuffing and our cranberry sauce. After that, we're gonna work on our mashed potatoes and our Brussels sprouts. After that, we're gonna work on our salad. And then finally, we're gonna carve our turkey and we are going to serve an epic meal. For a meal that's this complicated and has this many different ingredients, it's really important that we're not gonna be in the middle of something and then realize, oh shucks, I need to run out to the store or I can't find it. So preparation is gonna be paramount if we wanna succeed and have a good time. Because we're gonna be able to cook it no matter what, but having a good time is a big piece of this puzzle. A lot of this meal consists of items that we could do some of the steps the night before. If this were me preparing Thanksgiving for a party with folks coming over, you know, I would season my turkey the night before. I would cut some of my veggies for my stuffing the night before. You know, I might make the cranberry sauce the night before. In the interest of time and so that all of us can work together to make this entire meal from start to finish, we're gonna actually do it in linear order. Thanksgiving is all about family and friends and tradition. If you have a recipe that you absolutely love for your favorite vegetable side, maybe you prefer sweet potatoes over mashed potatoes, or you really don't love Brussels sprouts, you want green beans, you should definitely feel free substituting any items or any dishes throughout this entire cook-along. For me, this is kind of the best of my family's traditional Thanksgiving meal. It's what I like to cook, but at the end of the day, Thanksgiving is all about what you want to eat and what your family wants to eat. The timing should work out, provided that we all work together. First and foremost, I want to gather all of our ingredients and have everything sensibly laid out. In a restaurant, we call this mise en place. It means having everything ready at a hand's reach for when you need it. You guys ready to get started? We are going to get our turkey roasting. Remember to set 3 tablespoons of butter out so it can come up to room temperature before you start cooking. The key to success here is to try and stay as organized and clean as possible. You know, I've gathered all of our ingredients and laid it out. That's a really great way to start, but it also doesn't leave a lot of room to maneuver. So, you know, if you have a pantry, I would just make sure that you gather all of your ingredients and have them somewhere so that you don't have to go through every single one of your spices in your spice drawer to find the spice you need when you need it. The first step for Thanksgiving for me is going to be to arrange the oven racks. So before I preheat my oven even, we're going to arrange the oven racks because, you know, my turkey's gonna go in and I need plenty of room so that the turkey will fit in the oven, but then also I'm gonna need some other areas so that I can, you know, roast and cook some stuff. So I'm just gonna kind of kneel down here, open and organize. We're just gonna kind of grab our lowest rack and we're gonna put that on the lowest rack slide. And my idea here is that I've got this turkey roasting tray. We're gonna imagine our turkey sitting in it. Maybe I can even take our turkey cold in the bag before I even worry about roasting it and just stick it in here and make sure that it's gonna fit. So it's gonna sit, it's gonna be about that high up. And it looks like we're gonna have to adjust the highest rack onto the highest point. So now our turkey will fit there. And we've got one tray ready above. Can I fit our turkey in this direction, back to front, and close the door? Awesome. It doesn't look like it's quite gonna close and seal that way. So I've got a lay of the land for our oven, which is gonna help me strategize in the game plan here. So I would say, now that our oven is adjusted, we can preheat our oven to 425 degrees Fahrenheit. So ideally, we would season our turkey the night before. A big piece of meat like this Seasoning it the night before will allow the salt to penetrate into the flesh, which will do a couple of different things. One, it'll dry brine the turkey and allow it to stay moist when it's cooking. And also, it will season it all the way through. We don't have the luxury right this moment of doing that, so it's fine for us to cook it as soon as we season it. However, if you have the opportunity to season it the night before, that's great. And if you do, you season it, you throw it in the fridge overnight, but ideally as well, it would come up to room temperature before you throw it in the oven. It'll just save you time in the roasting process, and it'll make it cook more evenly. So this turkey's been sitting out for a few hours this morning, so it's about room temperature, and it'll cook a little faster, a little more evenly. So we can bring this bad boy over to the sink, and then we're gonna make a seasoning rub. So really, really simple and straightforward, but we're just gonna grab some salt that we're going to use for our turkey. We're going to zest a couple of lemons in there. So using a grater, I have this fancy lemon zester, but any grater will work. We're just going to kind of grate around. We want as much of the kind of lemon yellow, but we don't necessarily want any of the white pith. Ultimately, this is going to roast for a long time, and I don't think it's going to make a huge difference for this turkey, but it's good to be just kind of in the, I don't know, in the habit of zesting the rind off without the pith, because the pith can be a bit bitter. So I can smell it already. It's got this incredible like lemon zest flavor wafting up. So we can get that going. And throughout this process, like, we're not going to use this grater again. I'm going to now wash the grater and put it away, because there's no point in having excess stuff. We've got a lot of stuff here. So, got our lemon zest in with our salt. Some coriander seed is going to go right in with our salt. And that salt, coriander seed, and lemon zest is going to make the seasoning mix that we're going to season our turkey with. We're then going to actually cut these lemons in half, because we're going to stuff the inside of the turkey with some lemon, some fresh thyme, and that's all going to help to roast and keep it really beautiful, and a bay leaf. So lemon, fresh thyme, bay leaf. We've got our seasoning mix, and we can bring this all over to the sink with us for our turkey. Take a second to wipe down our cutting board. Again, I'm going to rinse our zester and put that away. And I promise you that taking the time to clean, organize, and put your stuff away throughout this process is going to be the key to success. So, our turkey here comes in this beautiful package, which is helping us to not drip all over the place. Once I've already sanitized our sink, so it's clean and sanitized. I'm just going to pierce this with my finger here, tear open the turkey, and allow it to drain, because any of the kind of juices that have purged out of it. So we don't need those. And then we're going to reach into the, I can actually throw this bad boy away here. And then we're going to reach into the cavity of our turkey, which is right here, and we're going to pull out the neck. And then usually in the front cavity of our turkey over here are any of the giblets, like we've got heart and liver, but it turns out in this turkey there are really none, so it's just the neck, which is fine. If I do have the heart and the liver and the gizzard, I would use those for the stuffing, but in this case they don't exist. So the next step I want to do is I just want to bend the wings from the turkey down below the turkey. So I'm just going to take these guys. You can see how these wings are sitting like this, and I'm just going to bend them down like this underneath, so that way the turkey's sitting flat on them. And now we can just season this entire thing all over the outside with our salt and lemon rub. So really rubbing it all over. We're going to season it with our lemon. A big handful inside, which we can kind of sprinkle and dump, and top to bottom, all around the outside, we've got this lemon and fennel seed and salt and lemon zest. lemon, coriander seed, salt, and lemon zest all over our turkey. And then we can take this guy and place him right on our baking tray, centered, and this is going to be our turkey. I'm going to take our gizzard, or excuse me, our neck, put it in our bowl here, because we're going to use that and reserve it. And now we can just rinse out our sink and rinse off our hands. So we have this turkey now that's kind of covered in the lemon zest, the coriander, and the salt. And remember that we're seasoning this entire thing, so we want the entire thing to be really nicely covered in salt. It's got like it seems like a lot of salt, but you're not just seasoning the outside, you're seasoning the entire thickness of bird. 12 pounds here. And then our lemons can go right in the cavity. Our bay leaf can go right in the cavity. Our bunch of thyme can go right in the cavity, just like that. And I'm just going to let the thyme kind of sit out at the end right there, and you'll see that after it's done roasting, when we present this bird, you're going to be able to see that it's going to be really beautiful. So our turkey is now seasoned. Our oven rack is adjusted. We're going to get our turkey in the oven to start the roasting process. I'm going to set a timer on my watch that just lets me know how long this turkey's been in the oven. You can follow the instructions from, on your turkey, but basically we're going to roast the turkey for 45 minutes at this high temperature and then lower it for about an hour. Drop it down to 350 degrees, and then we're going to let it roast until it's medium well in the legs and well done in the breast. And then we're going to let it rest. So this is a little bit different than most people cook turkey. Most people, they cook their turkey the entire way, and they leave their turkey at the table, and then they carve the turkey from whole at the table. I don't prefer to do it that way. The reason I don't prefer to do it that way is that the breasts cook faster than the legs. So if you wait until the legs are completely cooked, the breasts are going to be really overcooked. So what we are going to do is cook it until the breasts are just completely cooked and the legs are still undercooked. And then we're going to let it rest and present it. So when our guests come in, our turkey is going to be out at the table completely done. Then when it's time to sit down for dinner, we're going to take that turkey off the table, bring it back into the kitchen. Because it's had plenty of time to rest, it's going to be easy to carve because it won't be overly hot. The juices will have absorbed back in, so it won't run. It'll stay really moist. And what we'll be able to do is carve the meat off the bone, actually roast it and crisp up the skin, cook it the rest of the way, and then slice it so we can present it all fanned out. It's going to be so beautiful. So this guy's going right in our oven in the center of that bottom rack that we prepared. And ladies and gentlemen, you have officially begun Thanksgiving. That is the end of step 1. For step 2, we're going to start working on our gravy. So between every single step, what we want to do is really take another second to just get rid of any ingredients that we are not going to need anymore, clean and organize ourselves, review what's up next, and then start this process. So next up, we're going to start our gravy. So we've got this turkey neck here that we pulled out, and I'm going to set that aside. It's going to be an integral part. We have a couple of carrots, which we're just going to cut the ends off here. And we can cut them into kind of medium-sized chunks. I didn't really bother peeling them because these guys are just going to get, there's a little bit of a kind of a rotten end here I can just chop off and discard. We didn't really peel these guys because they're just going to get roasted with the turkey neck and make the base of the gravy. I'm going to take a whole head of garlic, and we're actually just going to cut it straight down horizontally through all of the cloves, exposing them all. So it should look exactly like that. With the skin, just like that. And that's going right in this little bowl. Skin and all. An onion, which we can cut the bolster end off and the top end off, cut it in half, peel, and then all of this is going to get cooked in with our broth to flavor the stock and turn it into turkey gravy. I'm not overly concerned about exactly how I cut it. Just don't want it to burn, so I don't want any tiny little pieces, because ultimately this is all going to get strained out. It's just for flavor. So you can cut these guys in half once and make some larger chunks. A couple of stalks of celery. Celery, actually, if you look inside, there's a little bit of dirt in here, which I think we should just rinse off. You can just see that those celeries have a little dirt, so just grab a little cold water and using our fingers to just rinse it off. There's nothing inedible about that, but we ain't making dirt gravy, people. We're making turkey gravy. So just give these guys a little slice to chunks. Maybe trim off any of the kind of ends that are a little bit wilted and not so great. So we can grab all of this stuff. We have a small baking tray. And what we want to do is just, we can do this in a couple stages because we don't have this giant bowl, but a little bit of olive oil in with this stuff. A pinch of salt just to kind of get it going and season it up. And we can throw this right on our baking tray. So onions, celery, carrots, which is the traditional mirepoix, or kind of like French sauce base. A little bit of olive oil to start the roasting process. A little bit of salt. Right on this baking tray. And we're going to go right in the bottom of an oven. So the idea here is, or right next to our turkey, or on top of it, wherever it'll fit. And the idea here is that all of this together is going to roast, get some kind of color, and then we're going to make our turkey gravy with this. But we want to get it in the oven first while the oven is still at that 425 degrees so it has a chance to get some color. So we're going to just pop this bad boy right on top. Note the time. Turkey's been in for a couple minutes. For the amount of time it's all going to cook about the same time. We're going to want that to bake for somewhere around 45 minutes or an hour. So we'll check that when we're ready to turn the oven down. We have our turkey in the oven. Now we have our gravy working, so that's the end of step 2. For step 3, we're going to start our cranberry sauce and our stuffing. But before we do, we want to wash everything, put anything away we're not going to need anymore, and take a minute to organize our thoughts. Look at the next step so that you're familiar with what's going on, so that you're not kind of caught by surprise. I think constantly with a meal this long, you want to be looking ahead, but not so far that you're forgetting what's upcoming. You just want to kind of always overview of the next step. So for cranberry sauce is going to be really, really simple. We're just going to take our small pot here and we're going to dump our cranberries right in there. We don't need the lid. We're going to dump our cranberries right in this pot. And you know, fresh cranberries, I always use fresh cranberries. I couldn't find fresh cranberries at the store, so we've got these kind of frozen cranberries. Completely interchangeable, exact same results. These are just fresh cranberries that have been frozen. So we can dump these guys right into our pot. And cranberries, if you've ever tasted one raw, and I'm not going to do it for you, are really, 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 really puckeringly sour. So that is why cranberry sauce often has a lot of sugar. For our cranberry sauce, so simple. We've got our cranberries, a whole cinnamon stick right in there, a pinch of salt. But we took the recipe from the back of actually an Ocean Spray cranberry, fresh cranberry package, and replaced the water with orange juice. So the orange juice has natural sugar in it, and I prefer to sweeten it with the flavor of the orange juice rather than just using the white sugar. So it does still have a good amount of white sugar. This is like a relish. And if you want to substitute a different type of sugar, you should completely feel free, but ultimately I always make mine with white sugar and it tastes great. So we're gonna cover our cranberries with orange juice, just till it's just covered, and just, you'll see them start to float. And you'll notice them float and you'll say, well, some of them aren't cooking. Don't worry, we're gonna stir it throughout the process. These are gonna go right on the stove over a high flame. And what'll happen is we're gonna bring them up to a boil, we're gonna lower it to a simmer, stir them, cook them for 3 to 4 minutes at a low simmer. What's gonna happen is you're gonna start to see them pop open, split, at which point they're gonna be hot inside, they're gonna release their pectin, which is basically like a natural thickening gelling agent that you see in jelly, and that's gonna thicken it when it cools. So bring it up to a boil, we're gonna lower it to simmer for 3 minutes. We're gonna pop it in that white, nice presentation bowl, and that's gonna go right in the fridge. So couldn't be easier than making fresh cranberry sauce. At this point, we're done with our OJ, we're done with our sugar, so we can set those off to the side. Wow. Wow, 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 wow. Huh. Wipe down our cutting board. We got a little bit of sugar sprinkled around. And then we can start our stuffing. So the stuffing is going to have a bunch of components, right? We've got carrots and onions and celery. We've got our bread. We have fruit like apples and some fresh prunes. And then we've got some butter and some chicken stock. And we also have some herbs, some fresh thyme and some fresh sage. In order to make this, the way we're going to do it is we're going to cut and cook our vegetables first in butter, and then we're going to tear our bread. We're going to take the crust off of our bread. We're going to put it in a bowl. We're going to heat our chicken stock and our butter together, and then we're going to mix together the herbs, the vegetables, the fruit, the bread, and the liquid, and then we're going to pack it into a buttered baking dish. So we've got our butter that's sitting out, and you know, if one or two of the sticks are softer than the others, that's going to help us down the road. So don't worry about the butter being sitting out at room temperature. That's actually a good thing. So first and foremost, a few sticks of celery, and again, taking a look at these guys, they've got a little bit of kind of soil or dirt. We can just give these a rinse. In cold water. And then we're going to make our, we're going to cook this in this large saute pan, this kind of flat-sided saute pan that I have here. Any large pan, you can use a large pot, but basically we just want to take a whole stick of butter and we're going to drop it right in there over a medium-high flame. Get this guy to the back so we don't need it. Put this over here where everybody can see it a little better. Over a medium-high flame, we're just going to melt our butter. And in the meantime, we can just trim the leaves off of our celery, trim the tops, trim the bottoms, and everything in our stuffing is actually going to be visible. So we want to make, it doesn't have to be perfect, but some nicer kind of evenly shaped dice. So the way to do that is we'll take our celery, and maybe it's a little too long and a little unwieldy, so we can cut it in half first to make it easier on ourselves. And then we could take these bigger ends, cut them in half. We can take a look at some of these smaller ends and see, do these need to be cut in half, or maybe they kind of are about the same size, so we can keep the smaller ends small, and then going back through, we can cut these into some nice kind of like, 1-inch large dice that are going to be soft after it's cooked for, a half an hour in the pan and an hour in with our baking, but it's still gonna have some kind of texture and visual appeal. These can go right in the pan with our melting butter. And we don't really want to get any color. Just want to start this cooking process. So over that kind of medium-high flame, we're going to stir it fairly frequently with our wooden spoon. And we're going to keep on adding our veggies. This happens to be a great tool, a spoon, hold, anything to just make sure that you have somewhere where you can rest, spoon rest, your cooking spoon throughout the process. We have our onion. So just take our large onion here, slice off the kind of top end, slice off the bolster end, then cut it straight in half, peel it, getting rid of any of our tough peel. The stuffing is my favorite part of Thanksgiving. I don't know if you can tell the intensity with which I'm cooking this, but this is stuffing. This is go time, people. Everybody's going to judge us on our stuffing, so it's got to be delicious. And the best way to make it delicious is put lots of butter in there, so don't be afraid. We cut this guy as well in half, and then just kind of at an angle, we're just going to cut some large dice, the same kind of size. Again, a lot of this is going to get cooked for a long time. I just want some bigger pieces that are going to remain kind of intact and look really beautiful and not just disintegrate. So that can go right in the pan with our celery. And then we have our carrots. So these carrots, I'm going to peel them because we're going to actually be eating these whole, not straining them out, not just the flavor that we want, and the outside can be a little bit tougher and more bitter. Trim off the top, trim off the bottom, holding our kind of carrot touching the cutting board on one end and in our hands in the other. Just slice, turn, slice, turn, slice, turn, peel, turn, peel, turn. If all of you have never peeled a carrot before, you'll be very happy to know that within two carrots you can master this, because peeling carrots ain't no thing. And if you don't happen to have a peeler, a lot of people just scrape the carrot with the side of a knife, and that works really well. It's a little less elegant, and so I happen to use a peeler, but scraping a carrot works really well. So that, and get rid of our kind of scraps here. And then our carrot, one of them is really small, one of them is a little bigger. Our bigger carrot, we can just cut it right in half, being careful not to cut ourselves. I cut through the front first, and then I just kind of lower the back of the knife straight down. And then these guys, we can cut them into, again, maybe just half-inch pieces, because the carrots are a little bit thicker. They're going to take a little longer to cook. And these can go right in our pan with our onions and our celery. Give them a mix. We can season this with some of the salt. We can add a couple of sprigs of thyme here, and what's going to happen is that we're going to cook this with the thyme, but the thyme stems are going to come out before we actually bake it together, because they're not going to be very delicious to eat. So these guys can go right in, and that's going to flavor everything. And while that's cooking, we can get our bread ready, and we can get our fruit ready. As well, we can start to melt the rest of our butter with our chicken stock. So for our fruit, we can take a couple of apples, and we're just going to peel these. So to peel this apple, I just usually start at the bottom, and I peel in a circle at the base of the apple, holding my peeler flat and spinning the apple. I peel the bottom, and then I peel in the same method the top. At which point what we can do is just kind of in strips peel straight down and go all the way around. Whew. Amazing. Stuffing is my favorite part of Thanksgiving meal, because it's kind of like, I don't know, roast turkey is usually really delicious, but honestly, does anybody like roast turkey? It's a little dry. The gravy's great, but it's pretty, normal. Stuffing is just the one item that you really only get no other time of the year. Like Thanksgiving stuffing for me is really like the thing that makes Thanksgiving. The whole meal together is Thanksgiving, but stuffing is like the special, labor-intensive, long, multi-step dish that's ubiquitous some people have mashed potatoes, some people have sweet potatoes, some people have green beans, some people have Brussels sprouts. Everybody's got stuffing. And honestly, if stuffing isn't your favorite part of Thanksgiving meal, probably means you're not making your stuffing right, because it should be so delicious, because it's basically sweet fruit and vegetables that have been soaked with bread and butter and then baked together. It's a savory bread pudding. It's delicious. So we want to dice these guys. We're just going to take the apple and we're going to cut straight down right next to the core into quarters. 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're left with an apple core. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, I got a couple seeds in here. We can just kind of using the tip of our knife poke those guys out, but ultimately no one's going to be upset. Laying these guys flat side down, we're going to now dice up these apples. So we've got this guy. He's one of the quarters that maybe we can just cut each of these in half. These guys are the right size already. This guy is going to cut into thirds. And then we can turn these and cut them again into the same size, kind of 1-inch dice that we were using. 1, 2, 3, for the celery, the carrots, and the onions. So we can set those to the side. The dried prunes are going to be really beautiful and delicious. Prunes are one of my absolute favorite. A prune is a dried plum. Really high in fiber, extremely sweet and delicious. Generally speaking, prunes got a bad name because people use prunes to help in dietary regularity. So people think of them as more of a medicinal use fruit. But they're really, really delicious. They have a ton of natural sweetness and a lot of great flavor, so you shouldn't be afraid to use prunes. I'm just going to take these guys and I'm going to give them a really mild, rough, just kind of chop through so that there aren't any giant pieces, but these are going to stew together and soften and rehydrate and be really great. So just want some kind of medium-sized chunks, and those can go in with our apples. The next ingredients we're going to need are going to be our herbs and our bread. So I'm going to wash our hands here. Taking that small bowl. Look at what's going on with our cranberry sauce. It's talking to us, people. Our cranberry sauce came to a boil. It boiled over a tiny bit and it started to scream at me. So that means it's time to turn the flame down to that low we talked about. I should have caught that before, but I didn't, and it's okay. I'm going to turn that down to low, give it a stir, and let it simmer now until those cranberries pop open. We've got the carrots and onions and celery are going really beautifully now. They look gorgeous. We can take the bowl that we just retrieved, and we can put our fruit, our apples, and our prunes right in there, because those are going to go in the pan next. So those are going to go in the pan in this bowl here, and set them to the side. Wash our knife off because we got some dried prune on there that's quite sticky. And we're going to get our sage. So the deal with sage is that sage is one of the kind of quintessential stuffing flavorings that is going to, can't really smell it when it's fresh, but when it cooks together, it is going to be the ingredient that makes this taste like stuffing. So sage has these big wide leaves. It's really not very delicious raw. It's kind of got a really kind of sharp, spicy, eucalyptus-y flavor, but we're just going to pick the kind of wide, flat leaves off. discarding the stem. And then we're going to take our leaves and we're just going to kind of line them up like this and just slice them into some smaller pieces that are going to be visible. So you'll be able to tell there's some pieces of herbs in there, but you know, I'm not going so tiny with them. So just a slice, and I can go right in with our fruit. So we're going to add that to the pan. We can drop a bay leaf right in now with our carrots and onions to cook together. Carrots, onions, and celery. We're taking a look at our cranberry sauce, which has now been simmering for a couple of minutes. And I can see that the pieces are kind of starting to pop open, but they're not quite there, so we can let that go for another couple of minutes. And what we're going to do now is we're going to heat up the butter and the chicken stock together to make the stuffing. So this medium pot, we can put our other stick of cold butter right in here, and we can put this guy on really just a medium-high flame. We're going to open our chicken stock and we're just going to dump it in right with this butter. For our bread-based stuffing, I prefer to use fresh or stale bread. If you want to use croutons, they work perfectly well. And I wouldn't endorse necessarily any one over the other, but I know my dad was a big Pepperidge Farm croutons guy, and his stuffing always tasted great. So choose whichever crouton you prefer, but any of them should work really well. At which point we're going to take the crust off of our bread. So to do this, I don't actually prefer to use a bread knife. I prefer to use just a flat knife. We're going to cut the ends off first. And then, just like I would take the skin off a fish, we're going to take our knife and holding it perfectly flat underneath the bread, we're just going to slice straight through. And you can see that it's flat to the board. I'm kind of pushing down but straight across. And what we should get is just that bottom piece of bread right off. At which point we can take this whole guy, cut him in half once, and then sitting it, we can trim around to get rid of the rest of just the crust. If I've got a tiny bit of crust in there, it's not going to hurt my feelings, but it's a little bit tough for our stuffing. So, you know, this would be great for breadcrumbs. If you want to take these crust and kind of leave it out and dry it and then throw it in a food processor or mortar and pestle, you can make great breadcrumbs. You should never need to fry breadcrumbs because throughout the process of cooking, I'd always be saving stuff like bread crust. In this case, it's going to go into the old compost heap. So, grab this guy, throw him in our little food waste receptacle here. Maybe we can wipe off some of this stuff that's going on our crumbs and make sure that we're not getting ahead of ourselves. Looks like our cranberry sauce has been kind of boiling now for long enough that it's really kind of softened through. We can take these and carefully, we're just going to transfer it from this pot right into this nice kind of glass, nice presentation bowl. That's going to fill right up. And then we're going to dump this right in the fridge. This is going to go right in the sink to clean in a minute. So this is going to cool and turn into cranberry sauce. It's really liquid, but it's going to thicken up because there's tons of pectin in with the cranberries. Right in the fridge. We can give our carrots and our celery and our onions a stir, and actually right here this is perfect now. Just starting to get a tiny bit of color on the bottom. We can add our fruit and our sage right into this pot. So right in here, all that fruit, and we just want the fruit to have a chance to mix in with our vegetables and soften a little bit, but we don't want it to get so soft that it's all mushy. So we're just going to kind of put it over a low flame now and let the fruit cook over a kind of medium-low flame. Just let the fruit soften and stir in. So we get our big bowl, And we can either tear our bread into some nice pieces, bite-sized pieces, or if you want to be a little bit more efficient and fast about it, you can just kind of take this bread, cut it into maybe some slices, yay thick, cut it into some dices. They sell stuffing croutons. I often use stuffing croutons. They're really, really great. I think using fresh bread is awesome. Using dried stale bread is great. So if you happen to have some dried stale bread around, this works really well for that as well. Just as long as it's, again, that kind of rustic, toothsome bread is what we're looking for. So just going to tear these guys into those kind of bite-sized chunks. And the benefit to stale bread is that because it's drier, stale bread is just bread that the moisture is evaporated out. It's drier. It'll absorb more kind of fat and flavor. But the reality is, I've done it both ways, and I've found really similar outcome. So I think it's not, I don't think it's really a big deal. I think it's whatever you got. So, got this guy in. So we've got our bread in our bowl. And wipe up or clean up. We've got our cranberries in the fridge. These veggies are just kind of finishing right here, just kind of over that medium low flame, just kind of coming together. We're going to wait until our butter's melted into our chicken stock, and then we're going to mix all this together. So I'm going to take a second to just kind of clean up our pot. I think this glass with the prunes is done. Don't believe we need celery anymore. I don't believe we need sage anymore. I don't believe we need thyme anymore. But celery and our sage, we can put it away. We can do our dishes. Make sure we're staying ahead of the mess here, people, because there's a lot to cook. The next step here is to make our stuffing. This is going to be great. To make our stuffing, we're going to get this nice pan that we're going to present our stuffing in, and we're just going to butter it. So to butter it, we've got this kind of butter that's been sitting here. You can take maybe a quarter of a stick or so, and just using the paper to hold it in my hand so I don't get it all over my fingers, and just kind of rub it around. And you might notice that I've got some chunks of butter on here, and that is completely fine with me because ultimately it's just going to melt in. And I don't know if you know what the best thing in the world is, but it's buttered bread, and we're about to fill this with bread with prunes and apples and carrots and onions and celery and herbs and salt and chicken stock, so it's going to really bake together and be great. So all those chunks of butter, I promise, will be absorbed. Nothing's going to go to bad use. So the more butter, kind of the better. So I'm going to stuff that. Give this a rinse. Give the old meat mittens a rinse, people. We can take our bread here and we can dump all these veggies, but remember, we want to fish out those thyme stems. So got a couple of thyme stems in here. You know, if you count it from the beginning, you can keep track of them. We've got a bay leaf in here. The bay leaf isn't going to eat very well. We were just really doing that for flavor. Maybe we'll put the bay leaf and a couple of those thyme stems on the top. It'll look beautiful when it's baked, but we don't want them in there. One of the biggest mistakes that I notice people making, and I make myself, is to try and mix stuff in a bowl that's not big enough, and then there's not room to actually mix it thoroughly. So I'm actually going to dump this bread into this big pot, which will work a little bit better because we'll be able to physically mix it in there. And you should feel comfortable. If you don't have a big enough bowl, you can use 2 bowls, or you can use your biggest pot or your biggest bowl in your pot, but you don't want to try and mix stuff if you don't have the room to mix it. So got this pot. We can take our carrots and our apples and all this goodies and dump that right in on top, making sure that we scrape all that kind of goodness out. If you want to take maybe a few cubes of bread in there and just kind of smush them around to make sure that any of that butter and flavor is really getting incorporated. We don't want to waste that. It's going to go right to our sink. We're going to season this with salt and freshly ground black pepper. Now we're going to pour over this our chicken stock and butter. I'm not going to pour it all in, however. I'm going to pour about 3/4 in, reserving a little bit just so that we can take a look. If it's too soupy, we can't ever take the liquid out. So we just want to mix it now, and we're going to take a look, and then we're going to taste it. We want to mix it and kind of scrunch it together so that the bread is absorbing all that liquid, but you don't want to mix it so much that you're like literally breaking it apart into all its pieces. We want to have really nice integral pieces of everything. And we can take it, so you can see that it's kind of absorbing everything. I'm going to give it a little taste. Wow. It is already tasting like that Thanksgiving stuffing that I want so much. Looks like it can take, actually, you can see a little bit of the liquid is still seeping out, but you'd be surprised how much liquid is going to bake out in the oven and it's going to set. So it looks like it can actually take the rest of this right in there, about that much more. And now we have all our veggies. We have our bread. We're ready to dump this into our buttered tray. So got this pan. We're just literally going to dump it right in here. And we want to let it fall and spread it evenly, but we don't want to pack it in. We don't want it to be overly dense. Remember that, you know, you got a lot of like kind of big soggy bread, and so we just want to kind of spread it out. And this is going to bake together and get really nice crispy bits on top, etc. But there's no reason to really pack it in. So just like that. I'm like 90% pumped for the stuffing. When it comes back out of the oven, I'm going to be 100%. We can take our thyme and our bay leaf, maybe put them on top. That'll look really beautiful. And this is going to bake in the oven for about 1.5 hours, but I'm going to wait until our veggies come out. So I'm going to just place this to the side. Our turkey has been in the oven for about 35 minutes. Our veggies have been in the oven for about 35 minutes, so you can just kind of peek at them, and you can see that they're starting to brown on top and get some color. Might want to just kind of give them a mix, but these can keep going for another 10 minutes or so, 5 minutes or so. So you can let these go for a couple more minutes here. And what we're going to do is we're going to clean up, because that is the end of step 3. Step 4 is Brussels sprouts and mashed potatoes. So before we get started on step 4, we want to really clean up and organize ourselves, because we've got a lot going on. Like in the beginning you got one thing, now we got 2 things, now we got 3 things simultaneously cooking, 4 things. It starts to get a little bit hairy, and that's when we start to get stressed out. We make mistakes, cut ourselves, God forbid. So let's take that second to clean and organize our space. I'm going to clean all the pots and dishes in the sink. Put away some of the stuff that I'm kind of done using, wherever it goes. wooden spoon is going to be an evergreen utensil. We're going to continue using that. So, our dishes are clean. Our turkey has been roasting for about 45 minutes. Our veggies have been roasting around 45 minutes. So it's time to turn the oven down to that 350 degrees, where we're going to continue roasting our turkey, because the idea is that we want to get some color on it to start, and then we want to slow it down so that it kind of roasts a little bit more slowly. We're going to take the veggies that have been roasting out of the oven, and we're going to put our stuffing in the oven to bake. And we can note the time and say that we want our stuffing to bake for about an hour. So, noting the time, we want our turkey, we want our stuffing to bake for about an hour. These guys here are the veggies and the turkey neck that are going to make our turkey gravy. So we're going to take them and we're going to scrape them into the pot that we're going to make our turkey gravy on. So take these guys and just scrape them. Take that turkey neck right in, and all these veggies can go right into our pot. And if there's any kind of roasted veggie stuff on the base of this pan here, we really want to try and scrape that all out, because that is going to be integral to the flavor of this turkey gravy. And in all the fat, all the liquid, are going to go right in there. Now, if I had some giblets, we can, in the turkey, like the heart and the liver, you can either cook those off in some butter, dice them up and add them to the stuffing, or if you prefer to keep your stuffing vegetarian, those work really well in your gravy as well. So those are going in. We're going to add some fresh thyme, a couple of sprigs of fresh thyme right in here, and then a bay leaf. Right in here, at which point we're going to cover it with our chicken stock. So I'm going to cover this with our chicken stock, and notice that I'm using an unsalted chicken stock. We're going to reduce this fairly significantly, so I want to use a low sodium or unsalted chicken stock, otherwise it can be quite salty after it's been reduced down, because the salt in the chicken stock is just going to get more and more and more concentrated. So we might wind up using 2 full things of chicken stock, but we're going to start with 1 here, cook it, reduce it, add more, cook it, reduce it, add more. So got the chicken stock, and over a kind of a medium high flame, we're going to bring this up to a simmer and let it cook. The next piece of the puzzle here is to start prepping our Brussels sprouts and our mashed potatoes. So the mashed potatoes are pretty straightforward. We're going to take our pot that we're going to cook our potatoes in, and I'm not going to need this lid right now, but we will later. So we can take our potatoes and we can just cut them into quarters or thirds. So maybe these guys are a little bit bigger, we can cut it into 6 pieces. These guys are smaller, we can cut it into quarters. We're going to mash these up so it doesn't really matter. We just want the pieces to be fairly evenly in size so it cooks fairly easily. And what we're going to do is we're going to cover them in lukewarm or cold water from the tap. Once the potatoes come up to a boil, you want to lower the flame to a simmer, add the salt, and continue to cook until the potatoes are soft and just start to fall apart. About 25 minutes. So, right in our pot, man down. We got a potato mixing. Luckily, I've got Dave, the camera sous chef sound guy. Alley-oop over here. We're going to cover these guys in cold lukewarm water, just from our tap. And just over a medium, kind of high flame, we're going to bring it up to a boil. Let them lower the flame, let them simmer until they're really soft. Again, we can take a second. We've got this pan that we roasted our veggies. We can clean that. We're not going to need it anymore. And taking the time to clean as we go, I promise you, is going to save you so much heartache and stress. So absolutely want to continue cleaning up all the way through. Start to put some of this shenanigans away. Wow, we're really making a dent out of Thanksgiving dinner here. We owe ourselves a glass of wine, don't you? Wow, that's absolutely delicious. Oh my God. Whew. I'm sorry. Julie, you don't want any? No? I'm not the only person here. I can tell that it's about that time. It's wine o'clock, people. By the time I'm done drinking, we might not have enough to disglaze, but luckily I got another bottle.
Cheers, I'm thankful.
Cheers. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving. All right. So we got our gravy coming up to a simmer here. And pop this on a back burner over a kind of medium-high flame. We got our mashed potatoes cooking. Okay, so the Brussels sprouts. Brussels sprouts are going to be two pieces. One, we're going to have the roasted Brussels sprouts and onions and apples. Very delicious. So, secondly, we've got the topping, which is this kind of maple glazed pecans. Pecans are very easy. We're going to take a small pan and we're going to drop into this small pan some of these pecan halves. And if you want, you can just kind of grab them in your hand and give them a little crush because they're a little bit big. So just kind of fist of pecans. You just want to kind of give them a little crush and break them up. You can use, you could chop them with a knife, or you can use kind of the bottom of a bottle or kind of a jar like this to kind of crush them. Whatever really works, but we just want to kind of break them up and make it look kind of like they've been naturally broken. A pro tip, what we do in the restaurant, is pecan halves are actually a lot more expensive than broken pecan pieces because they're perfectly taken. So if you want to save some money and get a really same exact quality product, if you're going to plan on breaking it up, just get broken pecan pieces. You'll save some money and you'll get the same exact thing. But we have pecan halves here, so just kind of break them up into some pieces. A splash of olive oil, a pinch of salt, and then some maple syrup. So natural maple syrup coming from a maple tree, reduced down, right in that pan. We can give it a little professional toss and mix. And this is going to go right in the oven. I tend to burn nuts. I always forget them in the oven, so maybe set yourself an alarm or a timer on your phone or otherwise. Just want to go in the oven until they're heated, roasted through, the maple syrup is absorbed, and we're going to get a little bit crispy and nice. So that can go right in the oven. There should be space. Maybe next to our stuffing. Wow, that turkey looks amazing! It is going to be supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. You're going to be so excited. My mouth is starting to water uncontrollably. I'm singing Christmas tunes to myself. I'm a little drunk. I drank a Red Bull. Okay, so Our pecans are in the oven, and now what we're going to do is we're going to actually start our Brussels sprouts. So Brussels sprouts are like tiny little cabbages. I absolutely love Brussels sprouts. I also happen to absolutely love them when they're like really fully cooked through. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take these guys and we're going to trim them. So you can see that they've been kind of aggressively torn from the stalk in not such a pretty way. We want to just remove that kind of dark kind of bolster area. So just slice them. We're going to individually go through each one and get rid of maybe that outer thick leaf and just that oxidized end piece. So just slice them, toss out some leaves, and we can go through all of these. Maybe I see a little bit of a burnt, kind of like dried up, little rotty looking piece. We can cut that out. But the Brussels sprouts are really delicious even if they've got some cracked bits. So feel free to, look, this one's kind of got a little bit more. Just cut it out. Just feel free to go through, clean them up, and make sure that you're starting with a beautiful product. Because beautiful dishes are made from beautiful products, people. Are you ready? I want to tell you a story about my grandma, Helen Udell, who is one of the most wonderful, amazing human beings. May she rest in peace. My mom's mom, who is a completely crazy and awesome and eccentric woman, super strong, super smart, super hardworking, real hustler. And she also went about life following the beat of her own drum. And like everybody should have one crazy grandma. My grandma, Helen Udell, one year invited us over to Thanksgiving dinner in North Shore Towers. Nauseous Towers, she used to call it. I live in Nauseous Towers. In North Shore Towers on the Queens, Long Island border in Floral Park. And she invited us over, and we showed up for Thanksgiving dinner. I was like maybe 7 years old. My brother was 12. My mom was, so excited to be bringing us over to her mom's house, but a little scared, as we always were when we went to Grandma's house. And we showed up, and the house didn't really smell like turkey or anything. And my mom said, "Oh, where's the turkey, Mom? Like, where are the pies?" Like, my grandma was an amazing baker. She made delicious, delicious meals. She said, "Where's all the food, Grandma?" And my grandmother looked at my mom. She goes, "I didn't feel like cooking." And we're like, "But it's Thanksgiving dinner. Our turkey stock has come up to a boil, so we're just going to lower it to kind of like a medium low. We want it to be a rapid simmer. So simmer is really just kind of like barely bubbling along. We want it to be simmering a little bit more than that, so it's evaporating as it simmers. But maybe that's cooking." So she goes, "I didn't feel like cooking." We're like, "But it's Thanksgiving." She goes, "Yeah, we can go downstairs to the diner." And so we had Thanksgiving dinner at the diner in the basement of the the second building complex in North Shore Towers in Floral Park, New York, with my grandmother. And I remember my mother told us we could get anything we want. And so we were like, "We want lobster." And my grandmother's like, "Are you crazy? You don't get lobster in a place like this." So we could get anything we want, except we weren't allowed to get anything we want. And we ended up eating turkey. And I don't remember if it was good or not. But the greatest part about out of the ordinary experiences is you might not love them, but you remember them forever. So thank you so much for that, Grandma. I got other grandma stories where that one came from, but I'm going to save it till we get to know each other a little bit better. I don't want to scare you out on our first date. So we got our Brussels sprouts trimmed. We can get rid of our waste. Actually, our waste bin is a little full. Maybe I'll empty this into our larger waste receptacle, otherwise known as a garbage can. So our Brussels sprouts are trimmed, and we're just going to cut these guys in half. So they're going to get cut straight in half, just down the center. And if any of them were really big, I mean, sometimes you get really, really big Brussels sprouts. You can cut them into quarters. But these are all pretty manageable, so I don't mind cutting them just all right in half. And you'll notice that just like a cabbage or any other vegetable, there's this bolster on the inside and all the leaves. That's exactly what you want. You want it to just be kind of like cut in half in such a way that they're not going to fall apart. If a few of the leaves fall off, it's going to be completely fine. They're going to roast and get crispy. Ideally, they're going to have some like color and be kind of nice, but I'm just going to go like this. So once we've cut all these in half, we're going to drop them into our large mixing bowl. that if you did mix your stuffing in there, you would have then cleaned and gotten ready to use again. In our case, we used that big pot, so we still have our mixing bowl at the ready because it wasn't quite big enough. And we're going to drop all these guys right into our large mixing bowl, right here. We're going to take our onions. We're going to cut the bolster and the tip right off. Cut them right in half. Starting to move too quickly, people. Slow it down. You've been drinking. Whew. I don't know if you can hear that, but that was me aerating the wine. By aerating the wine and swirling it around in my mouth before I sip it, it makes me seem pretentious and like I know what I'm doing. We're just going to peel these guys, and then we're going to dice them up into some kind of large chunks because we want some nice crispy, crunchy, big pieces of onions that are recognizable. So maybe just one cut straight down in half. And then just into some larger chunks. And then right into the big bowl with our Brussels sprouts. So the onions are in with the Brussels sprouts. And we're going to take a second now to kind of clean up and organize ourselves again. What we're going to do... Wow, we are like burning through these veggies, people. Holy moly. Thanksgiving is forthcoming, my friends. Oh, Thanksgiving is forthcoming. Get rid of anything we don't need or don't need anymore. Off to the side. Our turkey gravy is simmering away. Our potatoes are coming up to a boil. I believe we put the salt in there, but if we didn't, want to season the cooking water for the potatoes while the potatoes are cooking so that they absorb some of the salt. That's going to be a big piece of the puzzle. We want to make sure that they're absorbing some of the salt. Our stuffing has been in the oven now for 20-ish minutes. Our turkey has been in the oven for about an hour and 10 minutes. So, when our stuffing comes out in about 40 minutes, we're going to check that. Our Brussels sprouts are going to go in the oven when the turkey comes out. So here's the next kind of order of business. We're going to season our Brussels sprouts, getting on our tray ready to go. We're going to check our nuts in a few minutes and make sure that they're in good shape. When our turkey comes out to rest and our stuffing comes out to rest, we're going to raise the temperature of the oven and we're going to put the Brussels sprouts in. So we want to get them ready and set them off to the side. To do that, we've got our Brussels sprouts and our onions in our bowl, and we're going to season those with olive oil and salt liberally. Give them a toss. Just kind of mixing them around and making sure they're thoroughly coated. We've got our large baking tray here because everything is fine, people. Nobody got hurt. We have our large baking sheet, and what we're going to do is we're just going to line the bottom of this. We're going to line the bottom of this with a piece of parchment paper, which is going to stop the Brussels sprouts from sticking. It's going to insulate them with tiny bits so they don't burn, but more importantly, it's going to make cleaning this up really a cinch when it's time to clean it up. So just kind of line the bottom here with a piece of parchment paper. And if you're like me and you notice your parchment paper isn't quite sticking, I have a great trick for you, which is just a tiny bit of water. Just put maybe a couple tablespoons of water in there, rub it around with your hand, dump out any excess, and because now our our pan is wet, the parchment paper is going to stick down and not go crazy flying all over the place. Hello! God bless! Parchment paper tricks. That's going to go right on the pan here. And then we're going to reserve this because we're going to actually put our apples in there. The Brussels sprouts and the onions are going to cook for about a half an hour before we throw the apples in. So these are going to go to the side, at which point we can just take a quick peek at our nuts, see what's going on in here, and wow. Giving these a little stir, you can see that they've kind of absorbed all of the maple syrup, and they look really they have a really beautiful toasted, roasted flavor, and we want these to cool, so I'm just going to leave them sitting here on the burner just to kind of cool slowly. Got some maple syrup on our wooden spoon now that we can just give a rinse to and wipe off. Because it's got a really strong flavor that we don't need to flavor any of the other vegetables, and we're going to use it again. And this guy's just going to sit here until it's ready, and we can get our apples ready for our Brussels sprouts. So for our apples for our Brussels sprouts, we're not going to peel these. We're going to roast them with the peel on. We're going to cut them the same way that we did for the stuffing, but this time without peeling them first. So just straight down next to the core, around, so that we're cutting them into 4 pieces. So the first one is a kind of a full slice, and then we've got these half slices, and then we have this kind of thin slice. The cores to recycle. Any of the pieces that we kind of had some pits in, we can just pull the pits out. Just kind of carefully chumping away. And then laying them flat again. We can look at them and say, hey, these are going to be perfect for dice. These ones we're going to cut in half once. These ones we're going to cut in half once. And these guys we're going to cut into thirds. At which point we can spin them all once, rotating, and slice back through into our nice chunky apple dice, which is going to be so beautiful, roasted with our Brussels sprouts and apples and onions together, and then topped with those maple candied pecans. So these guys, we can drop them right into the bowl, and we can season these again with some olive oil and salt, and leave these tossed on the side at the ready for our Brussels sprouts. So we've got our Brussels sprouts ready to roast. We've got our gravy working, our mashed potatoes are working, our nuts are cooling. We've got our turkey in the oven and our stuffing in the oven. The turkey's been going for an hour and 20 minutes, and our stuffing has been going for about 25-30 minutes. So this is the first time I'm actually going to check the turkey. So we can pull our turkey out of the oven completely, and we're going to poke it with our thermometer and see how far along it is. We want to check the turkey basically after the first hour and a half or so and see how close it is, and decide then, like, let's say that the turkey comes out and it's 90 degrees on the inside. It needs a full another hour. I'm not worried about it. If it comes out and it's like 110, it might need to check it more often. As the turkey gets hotter, it tends to cook a little bit faster. So it'll take like an hour for it to go from 70 to 90, but it'll only take a half hour from it to go from 90 to 110. And it'll only take like 15 minutes for it to go from like 110 to 130. So it kind of gets exponentially faster as it gets warmer. So really, really important when we're using something big and heavy and hot to be super careful. I've got these nice dry towels or oven mitts that I'm going to fold a few times. There's the deal. When you take something moist, like a moist towel, I've been wiping up just barely moist to the touch, but you can feel it, because I've been wiping up my cutting board and drying a couple of dishes. If I were to grab my really hot out of the oven baking tray, what'll happen is the moisture in the towel will come to a boil immediately as I touch it. sizzling. And then the steam, as you can imagine, will expand and penetrate through, and it will burn my hand. And a steam burn is even more painful than just even pouring boiling water on your hand. So it can be, and that's when we, start to burn ourselves. We drop our towel. It's scary. We drop the turkey. So using really dry, either oven mitts or our towels, we're just going to carefully open our oven, and we can take our turkey completely out. The reason, oh my gosh. The reason that I like to take the turkey completely out of the oven is it's going to take me a couple of seconds to check the temperature of the turkey and mess with it. And the whole time that I have the oven open, I'm losing the heat from the oven. So I take the turkey out, I close the oven, I let the oven stay hot, and then we can check the turkey out here. So first and foremost, I'll give us a little poke, and actually it's starting to feel firm to the touch. It doesn't feel raw anymore. Because this turkey was quite warm, it was quite room temperature, it was out for a few hours, maybe it'll cook a little faster. We can grab our instant read thermometer, and there are a couple ways we can check. But basically, we want to poke in kind of deep in the flesh, right where the breast meets the wing, or the breast meets the leg. We're going to just poke straight in, and we're going to check the temperature of our turkey here. So, poking straight in, maybe we can poke until we hit bone, and then we can inch it back maybe just a quarter inch or so that we're in the flesh and not really touching the bone. We can just look at what we've got going on here. You can see that looks like we're about 114 degrees. There are a lot of numbers here, but this is the guy, 114 degrees. We want to be at around 130 degrees. So the other way that you can check, if you don't have a thermometer, but you do have a metal skewer or a meat fork, is you just take this out and you're just going to touch it against your lip here. And I can feel that it's warm, but it's not hot. I want it to be hot, but not burning hot. So 114 is warm. This would be a perfect medium rare steak. If we were trying to cook steak medium rare, right now we got medium rare. But we ain't trying to cook our turkey medium rare, people. So we're gonna go back in the oven. I love what's going on as far as the look of the turkey with the lemon zest and the salt and the crispiness and the color. So, if at this point your turkey is really, really dark and starting to get maybe a few little burnt pieces, you can take a piece of tin foil and just make a kind of light covering, which will help to reflect some of the direct heat and stop it from getting more color. If it's got no color at all, don't worry about that, because you can always turn up the heat at the end and get color on it. But what we don't want to do, is ignore what's going on. And if it is starting to get burnt, you can cover it. So this is going to go right back in the oven, and I'd say we've got probably about a half an hour between 115 degrees and the 130 degrees where we want to pull it out. So right back in the oven. Again, using our towels carefully, we can take a look at our stuffing, and oh man, it's starting to crisp up and look good, but I talk about it for a second just so you can see it. It's starting to crisp up and look good. I can see some crispy bits. It's starting to dry out. I don't see any of the liquid. It's really, if I shake it, it isn't loose. It's really coming together. But this wants to go, and I really want this to cook for about an hour. So we really need another half hour on this. So with our turkey in the oven for another half an hour, our potatoes are just kind of coming up to a simmer. They have to simmer for probably about 20 minutes. Our Brussels sprouts are not going to go in the oven until the turkey comes out to rest. The truth of the matter is that we are at a good stage right now to take a break. So this would be a great time to clean up, organize yourself, put any dishes away that you've used. Maybe this is time to spend some time with any guests you have. Set the table, pour yourself a glass of wine, change into maybe your outfit that you're going to wear for the evening. So this is a good time. We've got about 20 minutes of stuff's in the oven, but there's nothing really active to do right now. So the only other thing that we could do right now is we're gonna need to thicken our gravy later. So we've got some butter, and we can just mix together our butter and flour mixture, which we'll use, and then we can put that in the refrigerator, and that'll be in good shape. So the way to kind of do that is we can just grab a piece of saran wrap, and you could do this in a bowl, but I don't know if I'm being lazy or I just don't want to clean another dish and use another one. A little piece of kind of plastic wrap or saran wrap, and we can just take our butter, piece of soft now because it's been sitting out, room temperature butter. We can drop this right in the middle. And we want to use equal parts flour and butter. This is called beurre mani. So there are a lot of different types of ways to thicken things. You can use cornstarch or you can use a roux. Beurre mani is one of my favorites, and I do use it at the restaurant a lot, where basically you're just going to take equal parts by weight of butter and flour, and we're just going to kind of mash them together. And you can see I'm just kind of using the plastic wrap here as the means to mash it together, just to kind of keep it a little bit clean. Again, you could do this with your hands, or at the restaurant we use a ton of beurre mani, and we do it obviously in like a big KitchenAid or Cuisinart or Hobart mixer. So if you wanted to make a big batch, and the greatest part about this stuff is that, you know, it lasts for almost ever because all it is butter and flour in the refrigerator. And it's a great thing to have on hand because you can grab a chunk, and what I do is, you'll see, we're just going to kind of like take a piece of it out and it's going to melt. So the difficulty is when the flour is a great thickening agent. So flour thickens gravies really well, but the problem is if you just try and stir flour into gravy, it'll actually clump up. And it'll cook into little clumps, and you can't whisk it in very easily. It's quite difficult. But because it's completely mixed with the butter here, what'll happen is we're going to take this and put it in the fridge. And, you know, if you want to kind of get yourself like into the chef mentality, what I would do is I would kind of take it, and then I would form it into maybe like a little tube, kind of like this, and then maybe make it an even little tube, tie both ends, kind of like that. And when we got a tube, now we can cut, once this is refrigerated, we can cut little pieces off, and we can drop them into our hot stock, whatever we want to thicken. And as the butter melts, the flour will melt and incorporate, and it won't ever have big chunks of flour that stick up. So it's a great way to thicken sauce. The only downside is that it's got a really distinct raw flour flavor. So you can't just kind of go with the beurre mani and then serve it. You have to cook it for a good 5 or 10 minutes after the beurre mani goes in, just to cook out that raw flavor. So again, I'm just going to take this guy and throw it right in the fridge. Our turkey gravy is reduced down by about half now, and we're going to add a little bit more chicken stock to it. So we really want this to have a really rich, deep, concentrated flavor. So we can add the other half of chicken stock in and let that continue to cook. And what's happening here is that the chicken stock is reducing down, so the flavor of this is going to be reduced down, and then it's also going to be flavored by the thyme and the bay leaf, the carrots and onions and the celery and the garlic that have all been roasted together in the turkey neck, so that it has a lot of delicious flavor. So we keep on letting that go. And then, as we said, take your time. I hope you had a productive break. Ready to finish step 4. We're gonna take a peek again at our turkey and at our stuffing. The stuffing's now been in it for an hour. The turkey has been in for just shy of 2 hours. So we can take a look here, and again, being really careful with our dry towels or our kitchen mitts, get ourselves prepared with a place for our turkey to sit, and we can just kind of pull it out carefully. As well, I'm just going to pull out our stuffing at this point and take a look at that. And this is exactly what we want it to look like. You can see it's nice and brown and beautiful. And this guy is actually going to be delicious, just warm or room temperature, so we can put it back in the oven right before we serve it if we want. But for me, Thanksgiving is all about the visuals when people are coming into my house. So I can actually just take this stuffing, and I'll get a trivet here, and we can place it right here where it can live until our guests come. I mean, this is just beautiful. It's done. Maybe we can again pop it in the oven, but I would like as many beautiful looking, mouth-watering, delectable things that, you know, I have to kind of like slap people's hands as they try and eat as possible out for Thanksgiving. So take a look at our turkey again. We can just kind of grab our instant read thermometer and just poke it in here until we hit bone, and then draw it back maybe 1/4 inch, and we're up at about 126 degrees. This is really great. So anybody will tell you, like, listen, you have to cook the turkey way hotter. Wait a second, it's up. It's at 130 degrees. We wanted it to be 130. We wanted it to be 130 degrees. We're at 129 degrees. This is really perfect for me. Anybody will tell you that that is not well done. We do not want it to be well done. We want the breast of the turkey to be medium well. We want the legs to be medium. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to present this on our table. We're going to let it rest. When we're ready to serve it, we're going to carve it and finish it cooking in the oven. But because it's going to rest for like a full hour, it's going to be super duper moist. All that moisture that's kind of close to the bone when we would carve it, is going to have absorbed back into the flesh. The flesh is going to be evenly cooked, really moist and delicious. The skin is dry and super crispy. I mean, you can literally like break it and see that the salt has made this like super crispy crust on top. Absolutely gorgeous. So again, if we were to do our kind of like lip test, we just grab it out, touch it to our lip, and it's just kind of like, it's not so hot that I'm like searing my lip going like, wow, I burned myself, but it's hot enough that I couldn't leave it there. So that's really medium well, and that's exactly where we want our turkey to go. So our thermometer has done its job. We can put this away, and now that we don't have anything in the oven, the only thing we have left to roast are our Brussels sprouts. We're just going to turn our oven back up to 450 degrees Fahrenheit, and we're going to drop our Brussels sprouts right in the oven. So our Brussels sprouts are in the oven. We're going to drain our potatoes. So we had our colander at the ready. We want to double check our potatoes to make sure that they're really, really tender all the way through. And the way to do that is just grab a spoon. Maybe we've got this wooden spoon and our tasting spoon. We can just lift our potato, any given potato, out of the water, and we're just going to gently kind of push the spoon in from the top, and you can see that the potato really just kind of crushes and falls right apart. It's very, very soft all the way through. And that is absolutely perfect because you do not want undercooked potatoes. If you undercook your potatoes, you end up getting little chunks of like pebble-like chunks in your potatoes, and not very great. So we want to make sure our potatoes are nice and soft. We're just going to take them, and again, carefully with a dry towel, just drain them, pouring the water away from ourselves so that if it splashes, it doesn't splash on us, and just dump these right in the colander. And then you see the steam coming off the potatoes? That is because the potatoes are hot, the water's hot, and it's actually evaporating. And we want to evaporate as much of that moisture out so that we can replace it with the milk and the butter and the cream. So the way that we're going to do that is we're going to take the pot where we had cooked our potatoes, and we're going to add our butter. We're going to add our butter our cream and our milk right into our pot. And the idea here is that the cream, the butter, and the milk have three very distinct roles. The butter is for flavor. I mean, all three of them have fat, and they're all three going to thin the potatoes. But ultimately, the butter is the flavor that we're going for. We want buttery mashed potatoes. The cream adds fat, which adds mouthfeel. Cream is fat. Fat equals moisture. It's going to give it those really moist texture. And then the milk is going to give it the viscosity that we want. We're going to thin it out to the proper viscosity. So I'm going to start with about 3/4 of how much cream, milk, and butter I think I might need. And then I'm going to leave this just over a really low flame just to kind of melt the butter and heat it up so that our potatoes aren't cooled, because we want our potatoes to remain hot through this entire process. Now, and this is going to be a little bit of a fun little situation here, we can grab this little roasting pan that we had here, and because of our very, very cool turkey roaster that has these handles, we can actually pick this turkey up. And we're going to take it out of the pan, and then we're going to deglaze the roasting pan to get all the fat and the flavor from our turkey roasting into our turkey gravy. So what we want to do there is we're just going to take this, pick this guy up just like this. And you can see it just picks up, and I'm just going to drop it right on here so that it has a place to sit. And this turkey is now going to rest. And now again, like, I would present this turkey just like this at the table. So I'd have my stuffing, we'd have our turkey sitting there, so as our guests are arriving, they're seeing this mouth-watering, beautiful meal at the table, ready to go. And people are like, the turkey's already cooked? You're like, hell yeah, I'm just chilling, bro. It's all good. I haven't even broken a sweat yet today. Cooking for 10, 20, 30, however many people. Now, you could see that we've got this frond, or this kind of like turkey roasting pieces, bits and burnt little fat and crispy juices. And what we want to do is deglaze that. So we're going to put this pan over a really low flame. You can see that I'm just going to have enough heat that it's going to knot over a low flame and just kind of heat it up. At this point, while that's heating, we can take our potatoes that have now steamed off so they're nice and dry, and we can dump them back into the pot with our butter and our cream and our milk. So just again, away from ourselves carefully so that they don't splash onto us. Drop those right in there. And then we're going to deglaze with our really nice white wine. I like to use a wine that I feel comfortable drinking. This happens to be like one of my favorite wines in the world, and I just opened it up to taste it. But I'm going to use some of it in here. So the wine is going to add acidity to the finished stock. Normally when you make a sauce, you would start with the wine. But in this case, I'm going to deglaze with the wine, then add it to our cooking stock. So we can add our white wine. And then using our wooden spoon, we're just going to really scrape. You can see that all those little pieces of kind of browned up, delicious turkey are actually like scraping right up into our white wine. And that's exactly what we want, because we want to incorporate all that flavor. I mean, this is like, I don't know what to say, this is like turkey essence of roast turkey that we're going to really flavor our gravy with. So really scraping all of it. Again, I've just got it over a low flame to help, the heat will help kind of like agitate some of the scrapings and make sure they come off. And if you have any bits that are really, really burnt, you don't want to really scrape any really burnt bits off. All this are dark brown. If there are any burnt black bits, you should definitely not overly scrape those bits. A little bit of that burnt flavor isn't going to kill your stock, but if you like put a lot of like burnt bits in there, it might get a little overly bitter. So I've just kind of cleaned this pan by deglazing it, and we're going to take this now carefully using our oven kind of mitts or whatever, and we just want to move maybe our gravy to the front burner and keep it simmering over that kind of medium-high flame. And we're just going to add in this scrapings right in there. And we can make sure that none of these little bits go to waste. So really, you know, I mean, a rubber spatula might even be might be the proper tool here. We want to make sure I've got this nice flat wooden spoon, so I'm able to get really all of these scrapings off of there because this is the love, people. So I was gonna go right in there. Every last bit. Right in our gravy. And we're gonna continue letting that simmer. So the deal is that the gravy is going to cook down, at which point we're going to strain it and then thicken it, but we want to let it cook for as long as really possible. There's no rush here. That's just going to continue to concentrate the flavor and pull the flavor out of the onions and carrots and just get more and more delicious. So we can just feel free to let that keep on cooking. This roasting pan that we now scraped, we can put our turkey back into this roasting pan, and ultimately we're going to use this again once we have carved our turkey off the bone. We're going to reheat the turkey in this roasting pan, so we're going to need that. So this guy is now kind of done its part just as a temporary placement. And we can put this off to the side right here. It's not overly hot, so I can leave it right on the table. Maybe actually I'll just drop this towel down as a little trivet here for us, and then drop this right on here just to kind of rest so our guests see that beautiful turkey. Our potatoes, we remember we have in this nice pot with the butter and the cream, and they're just sitting over this low flame. And so we want to mash these. Potato masher works great. A whisk works really well, or even just a wooden spoon. These potatoes are really nice and soft, and we're just going to give them a nice mash so that we crush them. Again, I love the skin on them. A potato ricer is a really great tool, but the skins won't really go through a ricer. So if you don't want skin on your potato, that's a great way. Cook it in the skin, throw it in the ricer. You turn the ricer or you squeeze the ricer, and the flesh will go through. I prefer a slightly chunkier mashed potato. So, I like to kind of gently, by hand, mash it in a way that leaves some chunk in there. It makes it look really rustic and beautiful. A ricer will make a much more finer puree. We want to season our mashed potatoes with salt. And we want a salty, buttery, rich, creamy, delicious, palate-resting place. Just kind of cooking these. Supposed to be over a low flame, but I was going a little hot here. So we're just going to mash them, and you'll notice that all that moisture just got really absorbed. And what will happen is that we're going to need to maybe adjust, depending on how long these sit, the viscosity by adding more milk. So you can see that these are a little too thick for me right now. I want them to be a little thinner. We want them to be thinner because they're actually going to set up and thicken as the starch in the potato starts to absorb the moisture. So we want them to be thin to start, and then they'll thicken up as they sit. So we can add a little bit more, again, milk for viscosity. And you'll see now they're going to be nice and soupy. And basically, I want them to be so soupy that I'm like, oh no, they're a little bit too thin. And then they're going to sit here kind of over a really, really low flame, or maybe it's, maybe it's actually going to be kind of like warm enough that I can just cover them and let them sit over no flame. And, by the time I need them, they'll be kind of ready. But you want to give them a taste for balance. And you want like buttery, moist, creamy, salty, rich mashed potatoes. These are not quite salty enough. And I ain't gonna lie to you, they ain't quite buttery enough either. So I'm gonna put another little chunk of butter in here. The recipe that you have on your screen should produce really amazing, perfect mashed potatoes. So I think you should follow the recipe, and it should be really great. We make a lot of mashed potatoes at the meatball shop, and that recipe is what we use, and it's pretty foolproof. Obviously, you're watching me just kind of eyeball it, so I didn't follow the recipe perfectly because I don't have a measuring cup. But I will also tell you that potatoes, depending upon the season, depending upon the size, depending upon how long they've been out of the earth for, they tend to have a really wide variety of starchiness. So they can absorb more or less liquid. So even if you write a perfect recipe for mashed potatoes, you always want, just like everything else, to let your tongue be the final test and trust yourself. If you taste them and they taste a little bit bland, don't serve them if the recipe says that's what they're supposed to taste like. Like, add another pinch of salt. You know, you are the best judge of what your food tastes like. And if it tastes great to you, chances are it's going to taste great to your guests. So in this case, I trusted my judgment. I said, I think it needs another pinch of salt, and I think it tastes a little bit. I didn't taste the butter, so I want to add a little bit more. I can give it another taste, and that. You can tell when mashed potatoes are perfect because you notice how I took a taste and then I immediately uncontrollably jammed my spoon back in for a giant mouthful because I was like, God damn, that's too good to be stopped. Hallelujah. Praise America. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We got mashed potatoes. I'm going to put these on they're a little bit too loose, which means they'll set up perfect. Put them on the back burner, cover them just with a cover. Rinse off our stirring, mixing wooden spoon here. And guess what, people? That was the end of step 4. Step 5 is going to be making our salad. Also finish roasting our Brussels sprouts. We've got our turkey resting, our stuffing resting. Our gravy has all the ingredients in it except for the Burma I need to thicken, so we're just going to let that simmer until we're ready to thicken it. We got our mashed potatoes done and resting. We got our Brussels sprouts. They've been in the oven for a good 12 minutes. We're going to cook them for about 30 before we add the apples, so about 15 more. We have our pecans that have been maple roasted, and they're just going to sit here until we're ready to use them. Our apples are cut and ready. What we want to do now is, before we start step 5, and step 5 is going to be making our salad. It's also going to be continuing to finish roasting our Brussels sprouts. We want to take a minute again to clean up and get rid of stuff we're not going to need. So we've got some parchment paper sitting around. We have a couple of dirty dishes in the sink that we want to clean up. We want to make sure that, again, like you can see, our piles are starting to diminish and get smaller, but ultimately the success is going to come from staying organized. We don't need our cream out. We don't need our milk out anymore. I can just check our cranberry sauce now. It's been in the fridge for this whole time, and it's not quite cool yet. I can still feel it's warm, and it's still a little bit liquidy, a little bit more liquidy than we want it to be, and that's because it's still quite warm. It hasn't set up yet, but that flavor is absolutely spectacular, and it is 100% going to get there. If you're in a rush to cool something like this down, if you need to cool it down on the fly, you can put it in the freezer. The other thing we can do is, by putting it in a flatter, wider pan and putting that in the fridge, it'll allow more surface area so it'll cool faster. Or if we're in a real rush, what you do is you get 2 metal bowls, one bigger than the other. You put ice and water in the big bowl, and you put the little bowl inside with this, and you stir, and that will cool down. I mean, you could cool this down to under 30 degrees in, less than 5 minutes if you need to. But we're not eating for at least another hour, so I'm not in a terrible rush. I'm going to throw this back in the fridge. So, our turkey gravy tastes like turkey. Turkey has such a distinct flavor. With that like turkey neck and all the roasting goodness from the pan and the turkey fat in there, it transforms our kind of like reduced chicken stock, which is delicious with carrots and onions and celery, into this delicious turkey gravy that you can just like, I don't know, it's a very distinct and amazing, wonderful, lovely flavor. And if yours doesn't taste like that, you probably need a pinch of salt, because salt is what's going to bring out that flavor. In this case, I'm not going to season it until the very end because, again, it's reducing down and I don't want it to get overly salty. So if I season this amount of liquid perfectly, when it then reduces down further, it might be too salty. But for something like a gravy or a sauce where we're going to use a little bit on a lot of, this little bit of gravy is going to go over all of the mashed potatoes and everything else. We want it to be overly salty. More salt, you wouldn't be able to drink it like soup. It should be too salty, just like a salad dressing. It should be too salty to drink, too vinegary, too acidic to just drink on its own, because it's going to be dressing a large amount of stuff and seasoning that, if that makes sense. So let that continue to reduce. Mashed potatoes are on, our Brussels sprouts are going. The Brussels sprouts have now been in for 20 minutes. In another 10 minutes, we're going to add the apples and continue roasting so we can start to prep our salad ingredients. So it's time to start step number 5. Step number 5 is going to be all about the salad and finishing our Brussels sprouts. So first and foremost, the recipe calls for roasted walnuts. You can buy roasted walnuts in the store. They're roasted with salt. They're delicious. I would absolutely suggest that. In our case, I could not find roasted walnuts in the store, so I had to settle for just plain walnuts. I would like these to be roasted. And I will tell you the secret to roasting walnuts, which is that you need to take the walnuts and roast them. And the way that we're going to do that is just in a little frying pan. I'm going to kind of crush some of the walnuts up in our hands so that we have some smaller pieces. We can use a knife and a cutting board, or you can use a bottle, or you can use a mallet. I mean, there's a million ways to do this, but frankly, walnuts are really soft. These are fresh and delicious, and we're just going to give them a little crush to get some small pieces. And then we're going to add some olive oil and some salt. The idea here is that I want to add the olive oil first, and then give it a little bit of a stir. And then we can add our salt second. And the reason for that is that the olive oil sticks to the walnuts, and then the salt sticks to the olive oil. So we're going to get our walnuts, coat them in olive oil, coat them in salt, and then we're going to throw them in the oven. Now, normally, I like to roast walnuts at around 325 to 350 degrees. Reason being that they roast slowly, and I have very little chance of burning them. I always forget nuts in the oven. It's actually like one of those brain farts that I have. In this case, our oven is up at 450 degrees. We're roasting Brussels sprouts. So we're going to keep an eye on these. You can roast them on a burner on a stovetop, but as long as we just check on them every couple of minutes and give them a turn, they should be great. So these guys are going right in our oven. Close in our oven as soon as possible because we want to retain that nice, dry, hot heat because we're cooking those Brussels sprouts. If you have a fancy oven, a convection oven, cooking the Brussels sprouts on convection will give you a lot more nice, crispy color. So I would suggest that. In my case, I just have an old school conventional oven and it's going to work perfectly fine. I just want them to be nice, have some color, and nice and soft all the way through. For our salad ingredients, we've got some frisee, we have some radicchio, and we have some endive. We also have some baby arugula. These are in the chicory family. They're kind of crunchy and watery and a little bit bitter. They're all going to be really, really delicious going with that kind of like rich meal to cut through, an acidic, bright dressing to cut through. So we're also going to put some tarragon. We have that mustard vinaigrette and the walnuts. So before we get into the salad again, starting a new step, let's take a minute. Let's clean our dishes. We don't need our colander anymore. We've got this baking tray that we just kind of need to rinse off. We used it to rest our turkey for a moment. Our peeler, we're done with that tool. So our Brussels sprouts have been in the oven for about 30 minutes now. So it's at 450 degrees, nice and warm. And take a look at these guys, and these are looking exactly what we want to see, which is getting some nice color on the actual sprouts themselves and the onions as well. So we're going to now add the apples. Got the diced up apples that were salted earlier. We're just going to mix these right on top, just like this. And the reason that we want to add the apples later on is because we want the apples to be cooked through, maybe have a little bit of color, but we don't want them to be mushy. And the Brussels sprouts take a lot longer to cook. And to mix these, what we can do is just grab our parchment paper and give it a little kind of like toss in one direction, a little pick up and toss in the other direction, and basically then using our spoon we can kind of mix it all back out. Again, we just want to get an even amount of space with everything laying flat in one layer so that it's not steaming itself as it cooks, but really getting a chance to roast with some nice color. We're going to cook this for another full half an hour to get nice and fully cooked and nice and crispy. So it's going to be a total of an hour right in that hot oven on top. Check our walnuts, and maybe you can see that the walnuts are starting to get some color on the outside, but because they're roasting so hot, they're not roasted all the way through. So either with our skill of giving it a little toss, or if you prefer a little spoon, just kind of give them a little toss around. And those are going to roast for probably another 5 minutes or so, right in the oven. I'm really efficient to try and open and close my oven quickly because those Brussels sprouts are relying on that hot temperature to get the color that they want. So I want to keep the oven nice and hot. The best way to do that is to keep the door closed. So we've now dumped our apples out of this bowl. I'm going to give this a wash because this is the bowl we're going to use for our salad. So So we have a nice dry salad bowl now ready, and here's what we're going to do. We're going to cut our frisee first, and here's the way we're going to go about that. The frisee, if you look at it, it's really beautiful, but it's got this kind of soft, really bright green, and then there's these kind of thicker, darker leaves on the exterior. First and foremost, we want to pinch it together, and we just want to trim the darkest, most tough green leaves off and discard those. Then we can kind of pick through, and you can see that there's maybe a couple of pieces that are a little wilted or have a little discoloration to them, and we can get rid of those. Now we're left with mostly this lighter green interior, and you can see there's a bolster holding it all together. So the first step is we're going to cut it once, getting rid of the bolster, and then the second step we're just going to cut it straight in half, and we're going to left with these kind of magically fluffy light pieces that are going to be really gorgeous in our salad and look absolutely beautiful, but also give a ton of crunch. And then like little crunchy, moist, bitter interlude to our otherwise kind of like, this salad's going to be great. Our walnuts have been roasting now for another 4 or 5 minutes. We can give them a look. And yeah, we're doing a hot oven. It's kind of hard if you haven't done a lot of nuts, but if you smell them, they smell like roasted walnuts. I can see that the color is starting to change. So I can just pull these out and let them sit over here to cool. Those are fully done. The radicchio, to cut it properly, what we want to do is just take this guy, and we're going to first cut it straight in half. Here's the bolster. So putting it flat down on the cutting board, we're going to cut it straight down in half. And then if you look, you'll see that root or that bolster is coming straight through. So the way this works is that this guy lives just like that, and then this guy is actually going to push up through there. It's going to open up, and that's where the flour is going to come out through. It's going to be called bolting, and it means that this is bolting up and through, and that's when it goes to flour, and that's when it makes little baby radicchios, and it grows more and seeds, etc. So basically what we want to do is cut this core out, and the best and easiest, fastest way to do that is again, lay it straight down, away from ourselves, and cut it again straight in half, again straight in half. And what you'll see is you've got that kind of now quarter bolster on each side, and we can at an angle hold our knife and just slice it straight down. Now the bolster is out. Oop, I didn't cut it quite enough. Now the bolster is out. On the outside, I've got a little one, the outermost leaf seems a little wilty and not so beautiful, so I can just kind of peel that out. And everything else is going to be really gorgeous. And I can repeat that same process for the other side. So peel the outer leaf that's a little bit kind of wilted and not so great off. And then there's our bolster in the center. And we can just kind of cut at an angle straight off, and that is going to leave us with just the radicchio that we want to use. This guy doesn't have very much, I didn't do a great job of cutting it perfectly in half, so this guy almost has no bolster in there, but it does have some of this kind of wilted leaf on the outside. Now what we can do is take these pieces and cut these into kind of 1/4 inch strips. I want to have some different kind of cut sizes and pieces, so just kind of straight down, maybe 1/2 inch strips is better. Straight down across. And again, we're going to go with this kind of slightly bitter, crunchy chicory. So this is going to be like the traditional tricolore salad of radicchio, endive, and arugula. And in this case, we're going to then add the pears and the walnuts and some tarragon, which is a little bit interesting and funky. And then that kind of apple cider vinaigrette. And you're going to love it, I swear. So radicchio right in our bowl with our frisee. And then we're going to go with some endive. Belgian endive is one of my absolute favorite vegetables. It's underappreciated, underutilized. You can cook it. I cook it all the time. I basically take the outer leaves that are a little bit kind of wilted off either way and discard those. And then what I would do is cut them straight in half just like this. And you'll see the same thing as the radicchio. You've got this kind of like bolster on the inside that's holding it together. And then you've got all the leaves. And if I wanted to cook this, I would take it, hot frying pan, olive oil, sear it flat down, and then maybe a little bit of orange juice and some salt and braise it, and it's like absolutely amazingly delicious. Just as delicious, it's great raw in a salad and crunchy, or it's really awesome for appetizers. If you want to use like, we always look for like appetizer ways that we can do past hors d'oeuvres, things you can eat with your hand, and these little leaves, you put a little salad or something in there, and they make perfect like little little chip tips. So, cutting straight in half, and just like we did the radicchio, we're going to cut it again in half. So we've got these quarters, and now we're going to look at the inside of the quarter, and we're going to see where that bolster is here, and we're going to cut just at an angle just to remove it, just like that. Cutting at an angle just to remove that bolster so that all of our leaves are going to fall apart. And that bolster on an endive is actually edible, but it's really bitter and it's quite a bit chewy. So I don't necessarily want that in our salad. If you cook it, it'll bring out the sweetness and soften, but for raw, I always remove that bolster. These can get discarded. And then we can just take these guys, turn them, and cut them into some nice kind of like maybe 1-inch pieces right in our bowl. We're going to add a really healthy, fluffy handful of this baby arugula, which is washed and delicious, although whenever I'm working with greens, the last thing I want to do is serve a sandy salad. So even if I observe it to be clean and it says pre-washed, triple washed here, which is suggesting that it's sanitized, it's good, it's clean, I still always give it a taste to make sure there's no sand. In this case, we're great. If there was some sand in there, fill up a bowl, ice cold water, rinse it really thoroughly, lift it out of the water so that I'm not pouring the sand back over the top, dry it thoroughly with a salad spinner. In this case, we're in great shape, so we're gonna put our arugula right in our bowl. We don't want to finish the salad and dress it until the last possible minute, because we want it to stay nice and crispy. So if you've got room in your fridge, you can definitely keep it in the fridge, or these are all, as we said, nice hearty vegetables. They've been sitting out for hours and they're still kind of really crunchy and nice. What we'll do is we're gonna slice our pears at the last minute, so we'll leave those right in our bowl. We can make our vinaigrette. We're gonna pick our tarragon and add that into our bowl, but that's gonna then sit in a holding pattern, and what's gonna happen is that'll be the last thing we do is dress our salad and put it out. So picking some tarragon is really easy. Basically have this beautiful kind of like thick stem that goes through the end, and then you've got all these fine leaves, and you're just gonna start picking individual leaves right off the stem. And ideally we have a nice green leaves. Some of these are a little bit wilty because it's a little bit warm in here, and tarragon is a little bit fragile. At the end of the day, we've got a lot of different stuff going on in this salad, and it's not going to be overly noticeable if we've got a few kind of wilted leaves of tarragon, but we want them to be as nice as possible. Arguably, I think probably I should have left this in the fridge the whole time while we were cooking, but you know what? This ain't going to ruin Thanksgiving, and it certainly ain't going to ruin Christmas. The flavor of the tarragon is absolutely not tarragonized. If anything, a little bit warm and a little bit wilty really brings the flavor out more. But, you know, let's just admit it, I'm a failure. My mom will never love me again. So, we've got our tarragon. Tarragon is a really interesting flavor. It's kind of unique and difficult to describe, but it's kind of like a little tiny bit of a subtle licorice. I really don't like licorice, but tarragon never turns me off, so it's not that powerful. It's just kind of got a really subtle flavor. And mixed into a salad like this, I think it's just going to give people a little bit of pause and think like, oh, that's kind of like weird. What's that exotic flavor I don't really recognize? I haven't had that often. And those are the kind of questions when you're eating through a meal like this that makes it feel like a holiday. You know, it's a feast, it's special. You eat something, you're like, wow, that's a little bit out of the ordinary. Someone maybe didn't just go to their local supermarket, but went by the old specialty store for some herbs that I haven't had recently. Tarragon is also very popular in Eastern Europe. So you see a lot of tarragon in like Eastern Europe, but most prominent kind of use that I think of tarragon is definitely in like French sauces. I'm a big fan. Tarragon in chicken, tarragon in fish, a lot. So you can kind of discard the rest of this. Recharge. Give ourselves a nice clean, and now we're going to make our vinaigrette. So the vinaigrette for this salad is going to be pretty straightforward and simple. We're going to take Dijon mustard and honey in our bowl here. And the idea is that, I might just rinse this spoon to not be horribly disgusting before we dip in the old honey pot, as they say. And the idea behind a vinaigrette is that we're basically taking two things that never go together, never stay together, hate each other, oil and water, oil and vinegar, and we're trying to make them stay together. And the way to do that is mustard. Mustard's got some protein in it. It's going to emulsify or hold it together. The honey will help as well. So nice spoonful of honey. I want this to be a little bit sweet. I want it to be sweet and sour. I want to pucker and go, ooh, pears and salty and sour and delicious. Bag down the pie hole for a double dip taste of love, love, love. Well, buzz, 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 bees in my throat. You got bees in your gullet, boy. I don't know if you're feeling excited, but Thanksgiving is coming your way fast. That was my best George W. Present. All right, so we've got our honey and we've got our mustard. Now we're going to add our apple cider vinegar. So apple cider vinegar is one of my favorites. Got a really distinct flavor. I think it's kind of like, it's one of those regular ingredients that I remember from my childhood that is really actually very special. So maybe it's underappreciated, kind of like carrots. Like carrots are just like, everybody knows carrots, they take them for granted, but really carrots are amazingly delicious. We're gonna just thin out our mustard and our honey with our vinegar. Now, we're gonna add our cracked black pepper, freshly cracked black pepper. just adjusting the crack size here. I think I'm a little bit. I like it to be some nice chunks in there. I think as we're eating, you might want to bite into a peppercorn and go, ooh, peppery, spicy. That's so exciting. And then, if anybody says that, just slap them in the face and throw them out of your Thanksgiving. And then we're going to add a really healthy pinch of salt. And we're going to whisk in some olive oil. Whenever I'm making a vinaigrette, we want to use a neutral flavored, light, good quality olive oil. The reason for that is if you use a really expensive, heavy finishing oil, it can be kind of bitter and have a really strong, astringent, strange flavor that fights with the vinegar. So a neutral olive oil, and we're just going to whisk it in, kind of slowly drizzling as we whisk, to try and help emulsify. I'm not going to make a perfect emulsification. A perfect emulsification will actually thicken and then will stay together no matter what. This will actually break over time, but I'm not overly anal about it. I just want to make a nice whisk together vinaigrette that when I re-whisk it in a minute before I dress our salad is going to stay beautiful. The general rule of thumb for me is it should be somewhere around 1/3 vinegar to 2/3 oil. That's kind of the magic ratio. I just made a tiny little hole in the side here, which is going to be an air vent, which is going to allow the rest of the oil to pour out. Otherwise, it was suctioning and stopping itself. So that's the rest of our oil, which is kind of the perfect amount. Always important. Give ourselves a little taste. And it's like sweet and acidic and pungent and salty, tiny bit spicy. Amazing. We can hold this to the side along with our salad. This guy, basura, otherwise known as recycle, garbage in Spanish, poubelle in French, or here in America, we're going to reuse. And now, are you ready for magic, people? We can again clean up because we have just finished step 5 and we are in the final countdown. God bless America. Welcome to step 6. We're gonna finish our gravy, we're gonna carve our turkey, and we are going to serve an epic meal. Thanksgiving is right around the corner. So this is the perfect time after step 5. Everything is cooked, everything is ready. We literally only need to assemble, to slice, to heat, and to serve. No more cooking. So we can wash and put away all of our tools. We can clean and organize our entire area. And if you are going to be cooking Thanksgiving beforehand, like even the day before, this morning, you can take the stuff that can last and sit out. Turkey can sit out for 4, 5, 6 hours, no problem. Stuffing, mashed potatoes, the same. The only thing that I would want to keep in the fridge would be the salad so it stays nice and crispy. But all this stuff, for me, this is the time when we can wait for our guests to be ready. What I don't like is to feel stressed out because I just slaved over this amazing meal and now our guests are not complying and they're not eating when I want them to eat, and I start to feel a little sad that my hard work is going underappreciated. So what I like to do is prepare everything to this stage, and then I just go out and have a glass of wine, have a great time, and I wait. Everything should be presented on the table, roasted turkey, stuffing, awesome. And when my guests are ready to eat, then I wind up going and serving everything. So take a look at our Brussels sprouts here. I'm gonna lay a towel down just as a trivet so we don't burn our cutting board. And using, again, a really careful dry towel because our oven is screaming hot at 450. And we're gonna leave our oven on. We're gonna pull these Brussels out, and that is exactly what we're looking for. They are brown and crispy and absolutely beautiful. Brussels sprouts don't have a lot of sugar. Sugar is the ingredient that caramelizes and burns and tastes bitter. So something that doesn't inherently have a lot of sugar can get roasted to a darker, more burnt stage, bringing out a lot of roasted flavor without it ever tasting really bitter. So that's an interesting thing about Brussels sprouts. They can take a lot of roast. So we're gonna actually just drizzle a little bit of our apple cider vinegar right over here. I'm just gonna put my thumb on our bottle and just kind of drizzle it on. And what this is gonna do is we've got these apples, we've got these onions that have a lot of sugar, and then we've got these Brussels sprouts that are really roasted. And the acidity from the apple cider vinegar is gonna bring out all that sweetness and roasted flavor. So again, using our kind of paper, we can just kind of give ourselves a little mix. And then we wanna taste this for seasoning. So you can just grab one of these Brussels sprouts. Wow, soft through. So hot. Roasted, need a little bit of salt. Onions are so crunchy and sweet. This is the moment when if they need more salt or anything else, you want to add it. Trust your instinct, people. If it needs it, add it. If you're like, that tastes okay, add more salt. If you're like, holy moly, that tastes amazing, basta. That's Italian for full stop. So we added a little salt. Again, we gave them a little mix. And then we can actually plate these in whatever platter we're going to serve these in, because these Brussels sprouts are done and we're just going to serve them at like warm, a warmer than room temperature. So what should we serve these guys in? What do you think, guys? Maybe a nice big bowl? I think this bowl is gorgeous. That's French for gorgeous, which is pretentious for beautiful. So we're going to take the corners of our paper and we're going to lift them up and attach them just like this, one to one. We can pick all of our Brussels sprouts out. We can invert them right into our bowl, and booyaka bagwan. We have Brussels sprouts roasted with apples and onions in the bowl, ready to serve. Get all these crispy little onion bits right up there. And a lot of people don't love onions. I absolutely love onions and I love to highlight them. If you don't love onions, fennel is a great alternative vegetable for this, but honestly, that's absolutely perfect. Remember, we're gonna top these with our roasted pecans, but we're not gonna do that till the last minute because we want them to remain as much crunchy as possible. Remain their crunch. retain their crunch and remain crunchy. The deal with that is that the moisture from these Brussels sprouts will make them feel a little bit soft. So we'll add those right before we're ready to serve them. Because we used this, we can actually just throw this paper away, and our pan is pretty clean. So now we have some choices. What do we want to serve our turkey on? This might be a really great option to serve our turkey right on our table. So maybe we'll just keep this right over here. We can slice it and put it right on there, and that might be really beautiful. We also have that smaller baking tray. These are the kind of, this is the moment when you're looking around, you're thinking, okay, my stuffing's done, my salad I got in a salad bowl. We have to put a gravy in a gravy bowl. We need a big bowl for mashed potatoes. We need to serve the turkey somewhere. The Brussels sprouts are handled. The cranberry sauce is in its bowl, so that's great. Wow. It's almost time, people. So, to thicken our gravy, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take this little bowl, and we're going to take this strainer, and we're going to strain our gravy into the bowl. So, just kind of pouring right out of our pot carefully. We're going to strain our gravy, and it's thick and rich and dark brown and beautiful right into this little bowl here. And we're going to let that sit, and now we're going to wash this pot out because we're going to reuse the pot. So, not rocket science. We all know how to wash a pot. And we're going to use it for the same thing. So I'm not like sanitizing. I'm just trying to wash it and get all the chunks and everything out. It smells like the most delicious turkey gravy in the world in here. Kind of wash this guy out, rinse it so there's no soapy flavor in our gravy, which would be a travesty. And now we're going to add this turkey gravy back into our pot where we're going to thicken it. So maybe we can grab the strainer and just pick it up and drop it on. And then using our wooden spoon, we want to press out any of the excess juice. We don't want to lose any of this love. I mean, we just worked for like 3 hours to make turkey gravy, and we want every bit of it. So really give that a good squeeze. Wow. All the flavor of those vegetables coming out. And that is absolutely beautiful. You can see the meat on that turkey neck is starting to fall apart, and the garlic is just mashing up. Oh my gosh. So that goes right in our pot. This stuff here is going to be garbage because we have literally taken every bit of flavor out of there and turned it into gravy. So we can top that right in the garbage. Wash our strainer. We're going to use our wooden spoon more. I find strainers to be one of the hardest things to wash, but if you actually give them a little crack, it knocks all the little goodies out of there, and it actually cleans them quite well. So that's my trick for cleaning and drying a strainer. The rest of this gravy, carefully, because we don't want to waste or lose any of it, goes right in our bowl, in our pot. And I can smell turkey gravy. Wow, it's amazing that. Back on the stove, medium-high flame. We want to bring this up to a boil. Meanwhile, we can wash this little bowl out. Not going to use that anymore. Once this comes up to a boil, we're going to thicken it. And the way that we're going to thicken it, again, is we're going to whisk in our Burmani, and we're going to lower the flame to medium-low, and we're going to let it simmer so that it cooks out any of that raw flour flavor. The way we're going to thicken this, we're going to bring it up to a boil. We're We're gonna whisk in the Burmani, and what that means is we're literally going to take knobs of that butter with the flour mixed in, and we're gonna whisk it while the butter melts, incorporating the flour into it. The flour is gonna absorb the moisture and thicken the gravy. And then we're gonna bring it down to a simmer and let it cook so that it cooks for about 5 minutes just to cook out that raw flour flavor. So we grab our Burmani. And again, what we've got here is we've got this beautiful tube of now kind of cooled butter with the flour mixed in, and we can cut it into a few distinct chunks. This, we can go back in the fridge and, you know, use as we need it, and these pieces we'll thicken our sauce with and see how much we need. You never know exactly how much you're gonna need, so you just kind of have to whisk it and go. So the first part is, and maybe I know I'm gonna need at least a couple pieces, so I can grab a couple of pieces and I can drop them right in and start whisking. I'm not going crazy, I just wanna kind of make sure that nothing's sticking. So we're just giving it a little whisk, maybe medium-high, not like overly crazy boiling. And you'll start to see two things happen. One is that it's gonna thicken, but two, as the flour starts to absorb the fat, it's gonna emulsify together and turn it into this kind of like, instead of it being like liquid with fat on top, it's gonna be thick and emulsified gravy. And I think for me, gravy should be quite thick. So I can see that even though I put a couple of pieces in here, it's still quite kind of liquidy. So I'm definitely gonna go with at least one more piece. And you know, when you work with gelatin or pectin, it doesn't thicken until it cools down. This is gonna thicken right away. So we're gonna know when it's ready. And for me, nappe is the name of the game, and we're going to show you what that means. It's how you know when a liquid is properly thickened for gravy, and it's going to be a little test that we use our spoon to check. So still pretty loose, pretty liquidy, so I'm going to go with this kind of final chunk right here, right in, making sure we got no plastic. But I am starting to see that telltale sign of it thickening up. It is turning into gravy. It's not perfectly liquidy loose. And again, I'm also incorporating some butter here, so we're not forgetting that a little extra flavor is going a long way. So you can see with our tasting spoon here, that our gravy has started to thicken up a little bit. And it's really up to you. I mean, for me, I would actually go with a little bit more. I want our gravy to really cling to our turkey. I don't want it to just run all over the plate. So we're gonna go with a little bit more of this Burmani stick here, because I think it's gonna actually benefit the final dish. But I would add it in stages, because if you overly thicken it, which I promise you every single chef you've ever met has done, it's like you're sitting there, you just slaved over the sauce, and then it turns into glue, like mortar, brick mortar. You're like, oh man. And you can thin it out. If that happens, grab a little extra chicken stock, or if you don't have any chicken stock, a little bit of water, and you can always thin it back out. So it's not the end of the world, but it's much better to get it right the first time. So add it in stages. This looks about right. And I'm going to show you what I'm going to look for as soon as this is kind of all dissolved. What I'm looking for is, the way I know it's not going to run all over my plate, and again, sauces get thicker as they cool. So this is going to get a little bit thicker than it is right now. What I'm looking for is I'm going to take what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take our spoon, I'm going to dip it in there, and then I'm going to run my finger across the back, and it's going to make a line. And you can see that there's a top line of liquid there. And if that line doesn't drip down, I can tell that my sauce is thick enough that it is nappe, which is a French word for thick enough to be delicious. So, you get that? That's the way we test. That is absolutely perfect. Lower the flame and simmer for 4 minutes to cook out the raw flour flavor. Even if I just place it right here sitting on the flat part of my oven, that's going to be warm enough to just keep it hot enough to be Thanksgiving gravy. So that's done. We are ready to serve our dinner. First and foremost, I'm going to slice our pears, get those going. So here's the deal with these. I'm just going to, the same way that we sliced them apples off of the core, I'm going to slice the pears, except instead of doing it into 4s, I'm going to do it into 3s. So there's the core of the pear. Just off center from the core, we're just literally going to go straight down. 1. And then here. So this would be 4, this would be 3. 4, 3. We're just going to slice straight down. 2. And then 3. Remove the core. Again, 1, 2, 3. Now, we can lay our pears flat, and we can see that we have a few different sizes. We've got kind of holes and quarters. I'm going to cut the holes in half once. Now we can take them this way and cut them into maybe some nice thin pear slices. Slowly and gently and carefully, because we've been drinking the whole time. And if you have a mandolin, this is a great time to employ it. Again, remember that we're not in a rush. There is absolutely nothing going on. We're just literally slicing pears at the last step. So, just going to slice these up. The reason I slice these kind of very close to the end is that pears, just like apples, they tend to oxidize. They get a little bit brown and a little bit soft and mealy if they sit out after they've been sliced. So I prefer not to slice them until the very end. One way that you can actually maintain some of their fresh and crispness if you want to slice them a little bit earlier on, and we do this at the meatball shop all the time when we cater an apple salad, is we'll actually take these pears and rather than mix them in with the salad, we'll mix them in with the salad dressing. Dump them in the salad dressing, and the acid and the oil will actually stop them from oxidizing and keep them kind of fresh and crisp. Maybe they'll even pickle a little bit. They'll have an interesting crunchy flavor. So we can mix these right in here. So literally, to finish this salad, we just need to add the nuts, the pears, and mix it, and we're done. So we can put this off to the side. And this is going to be the big deal here. We're about to slice our turkey. So if you are a traditionalist and you want to slice your turkey at the table, you should feel free to do that. And I absolutely support it. If you are like me, and like most chefs, we prefer to slice our turkey in the kitchen and serve it fanned out, beautiful, ready to go. It's really awkward and difficult to slice turkey off of a bird because there are a lot of contours to the bones, and to get all the meat off of there is tough. But in the kitchen, I can show you how to do it in a really, really easy, elegant, simple way that will allow us to get all the meat off so that everybody can get either a piece of dark meat or a piece of light meat to their liking. So right before we slice our turkey, here's what we want to say. We're going to say like, okay, well, do I need to reheat everything? Our Brussels sprouts maybe are, they just came out of the oven. They're hot. If you've waited an hour between finishing cooking them and serving them, then you can pop the bowl in the oven to keep them warm for that time, or you can reheat them. Our stuffing's been sitting out for about an hour. It's really absorbed all of its moisture. It's beautiful. Feeling from the bottom of the pan, I can feel that it's still quite warm, but I'd like it to be a little hotter, so I'm going to drop this in the oven on the top shelf. Just drop it right in the oven just to reheat. Take a look at our potatoes. Give them a little stir and taste, and make sure that, as they've absorbed some of the salt and fat and moisture, do they need any more salt? They're piping hot. They're seasoned to perfection. I'm just going to leave those covered. And now for the turkey. So here's the deal with the turkey. I've had this meat fork or these tongs this whole time, and here's what we're going to do. We're just going to slide her close to us. We're going to insert these tongs or this meat fork right into the cavity at the front, and we're gonna just lift our turkey off of this tray and put it right onto our cutting board. Now, because it's been resting for the better part of an hour, all the juices should have been absorbed back in. And for the most part, I don't think it's gonna drain all over the place. That said, we wanna have some towels at the ready. Whenever we're slicing meat, having just a nice towel that can absorb any of the juices that come out before they run all over the place will save us from really freaking out. They also have cutting boards that have some notches around them. Those are really great. In this case, I think we're gonna be okay. Here's the deal. Firstly, we're gonna pull out the beautiful roasted lemons because those are gonna be garnish, so we can keep those to the side. The thyme that's been roasted and the bay leaves from the inside, that's all gonna be beautiful garnish for our plate, so we can keep those to the side. And then what we want to do is we want to remove the legs from our turkey. So using a large knife if you feel comfortable, a smaller knife if you feel like it's a little bit too much, we're going to hold the turkey facing ourselves so that the two legs are here, and I'm just gonna make an incision next to the leg, right between the breast and the leg. So you can see that kind of wiggle, 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 moves right here, that's where the leg, that's where our incision is gonna go. I want most of the skin to stay on our breast. So we're gonna go on both sides, just around between the leg and the breast. Now we're just going to, holding the knife on the breast, we're gonna pull, and we're gonna try and pull down this leg, and you can see that the leg just kind of slides off of the bird. Just like that, you can see that the leg just slides right off of the bird. But it's a little bit, it's got some color in there. It's a little pinker than I want it to be, right? That's what we were talking about earlier with the legs are gonna need to go back in the oven. So we can take this, and by holding by the front of the leg, we're actually gonna flip the whole turkey right upside down. And then we're gonna put our knife flat right where the turkey leg has slit. There's where the skin split, right here, and we're gonna pull the turkey leg up, and then we're gonna slice straight down, and our turkey leg is going to come off. And that's why we had this towel here, because some of these juices are going to pull off. So again, you can soak those up. This right here is one of the best pieces of turkey of all. I am not afraid of turkey with a little color, so that is delicious. But we're going to roast it more, so don't get your panties in a bunch. Putting our knife right where the bone, where the leg cut comes here, I'm just going to pull again up. I'm sorry, the back of the knife, so I don't cut in. Breaking through the bone, and then that we can just slice straight off. And those are our two legs, right? So now, good to be the chef. We can flip this guy back over, and we're going to take our breasts off of the carcass. So to do that, we're going to take our turkey, and again, straight down the center, we're going to make a slice, and that's where the two breastbones meet. And what we're going to do is we're going to make an incision straight down, and you can feel, like, look, there's a little bone there. We're going to just go to the left of there so that my knife is hugging the bone, and we're just going to slice straight down until we hit the wishbone over here, right in here. And then using our knife, we're just going to kind of pry the breast aside, and you can see that there's some, just the flesh. We're going to cut and pry and cut and pry. And by doing this, what we can actually do is get this whole turkey breast right off of the carcass as a whole piece. And that is exactly the color we want. It's like slightly off-white, but it's not that dry and gray. And then if you just tilt it, you can see that there is where the wing is attached to the meat. And using the kind of end of our knife, we can just cut straight down, and there's our breast right off of there. And again, chef privilege, best, moistest, most delicious part, right in my throat. The breast is now off this left side. Now we're going to start on this side over here. We're going to again, so here's this kind of breastbone in the middle. We're just going to carve to the left, and if you kind of poke around with the tip of your knife and it's a little bit hard, oh, there it is, it's soft through. Slice straight down through to the right side of our breast until my knife stops, and then we're just gonna pry the meat away and look in there and see what I need to slice. Slice and pry, and this whole breast is gonna slice right off. And again, we get to the point where I hit a bone, I pull it open, and I can see, where is it? Oh, right there, look. There is where the wing bone is connecting. You can see it right in there. And that's where I can just slice straight through, and we can take our second breast right off. So now, there's a lot of amazing meat in here. We all love to pick a Thanksgiving turkey carcass. Maybe you want to make soup. Maybe you just want to eat it all right this second. What we're going to do, I'm just going to hold this off to the side. And we can deal with this later, because this is going to be what we're going to present for Thanksgiving. So first and foremost, we got a couple of breasts that are completely perfectly cooked, and I don't want to really mess with them. I want to heat them up a little bit, crisp the skin, but I don't want to go further than that. The legs, however, I do want to cook a little bit more. This is a step that you can either skip or not, but for me, this makes a big difference. There's a bone, which is the thigh bone, that runs from here to here, and I would like to remove that. So in order to remove that, I'm just going to slice straight down where I know that thigh bone is, right here, and I'm just going to trace around it, just like this, with our knife. And this might be easier for you with a smaller knife, but basically I want to expose that bone, and then using the back of our knife to stabilize the leg, we can just kind of scrape the meat around it off, and then cut the thigh bone out of our bird. So again, I see I've got this whole thigh bone in my hand. Holding it, I can just kind of pull it back until I hear it break, and then slice through until I see that knuckle, and that's all the connective tissue. So I'm just pulling that guy out. This piece then, I'm going to take and I'm going to stick him first on our tray. This guy here, again, we got our towel to get some of that juice. The thigh bone is going to run straight from here to here. This is where it attaches to the wing bone or the leg bone. So we're going to cut straight up across it. And again, if you don't feel comfortable with this step, we can, slice around it and serve it. But for me, this is just an extra step that makes our turkey present really beautiful. So we're just going to go in here again, just kind of trace around there, and I'm going to pull the bone out. And you can see that the bone is attached here. So if I just hold the meat and if I hold the meat down, I can actually just kind of twist and break back until I see where it's connected, and then I can pull the bone right out. These guys here are going right back in the oven, and they're only going to take about 3 minutes the rest of the way and heat up. So washing our hands. Remember, we kept our oven nice and hot at 450 degrees. We can drop these guys right back in. And while the legs are continuing to finally finish cooking, we can take our breasts and we can serve them for presentation. So we've got our tray here ready to present our turkey. And we have our breasts. First and foremost, we can take our wing, which is connected right here, right off. So straight down, again, pull the wing off. This wing it's a little bit big for one person to eat, so maybe we'll cut it straight down. You can see that it's connected right there. You can cut it straight down, peel it back, and cut through. So those are going to be 2 wing pieces. Do that on both of our breasts. So wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. I see it's connected right there. I can come straight down, cut straight through, straight down, peel it back, straight down, and now I've got a couple of wing pieces. These are going to present really beautifully. Now for our beautiful breast. This is the highlight, and we want to be very careful. We're going to just take it, and angling our knife slightly, we're just going to slice. And you can see that I get a lot more control of my turkey because I'm using my hands, and if you want to use rubber gloves, you absolutely can. But I'm doing this in the kitchen. If my guests saw me manhandling their bird, they might be a little less excited about the outcome. But if I do it table side, I gotta like carve it with a carving knife and a fork, and it's really difficult to kind of get this amazing outcome. But here's what I got. I've got these breasts, and then just kind of like do a little Salt Bay action. Give it a little kind of tap with your knife, and you can see that it fans out absolutely beautifully. And that guy, slide the knife straight down. You can pick him up and drop him maybe here, right? Again with this, slicing at an angle. Anybody can do this. It's just a matter of taking the time to methodically, carefully slice the turkey. And then, again, back of the knife, a little bit of action, just pounding it, and you're gonna see it fans out absolutely beautifully. Slide our knife underneath and holding it, gonna fan out the other breast. Now, we can say, what do we have here? We've got some wing. Maybe we can cut a couple of these extra pieces of meat off of here so no one just gets like a giant wing meat. Pile those right in the middle. Maybe we've got one wing presented here, off to one side. I don't know, we can kind of look for beautiful presentation. Another wing, take some of this extra meat off of here, slice it up in the middle. This wing off of this side, and then again we've got these kind of crispy, salty wing bits. Can sit right in with those wings, and that's going to be there. Maybe we say we want to take a couple of lemons, put them on top. Got this bay leaf right here. Take a moment, wash our hands, and just give ourselves a break. And what we're going to do is take the legs back out of the oven. They've just heated and cooked a little bit more. And these guys, picking them up just by the kind of bone, carefully, they're quite hot. We're going to slice these as well, just straight down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And now these guys as well, we're going to pick them up, and it's going to go maybe one of them right here, like that. And then this guy here, again, maybe one. And if you're thinking, it's still a little bit rare, don't worry, it's all gonna go back in the oven to continue to crisp and heat. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then maybe this guy here, right over here. So we've got all of our dark meat, another leg presented, some of our fresh thyme that we pulled right out of there, straight over there. Chef privilege. In my belly. Wash our hands. And now our turkey goes in the oven. Maybe like 5 minutes. Just heating it up, crisping up the skin, cooking those legs the rest of the way through. Now that we've sliced them, they're going to cook really, really quickly. At the same time, we can take our stuffing out because it's nice and hot. And you can see starting to crisp up, a little bit of burnt niblets on top that are amazing and gorgeous. We can take this guy, and this is going to go over to the sink. And we can wash off our cutting board, get rid of it. It's time to dress our salad, put our pecans on top of our Brussels sprouts, and serve our dish. So I'm just going to get rid of all this stuff that we don't need anymore. Our cutting board, no longer needed. Right in the sink. And again, like taking the time to just kind of clean up our area. Now, while we have these few moments, is the difference between like Thanksgiving, awesome, super smooth and easy, and Thanksgiving feeling really stressed out and nervous. So we're just gonna take our time. I'm gonna go ahead and get this to a point where I feel like it's clean and nice. I'm going to sanitize it, and clean everything down even further after the fact. But for now, my main concern is let's just clean up and get stuff to a point where I can produce Thanksgiving dinner for my guests. So, this over here. So now, okay. Got our area wiped down. And here's what we got. We have our Brussels sprouts with apples and onions, roasted, still really warm, sitting next to our oven. And we've got these amazing pecans that have been roasted with maples. And we're just going to loosen them, and those are going to go right over the top. One dish. Hello. Hello Christmas. Hello Thanksgiving. We have our stuffing, which is nice and hot and just came straight out of the oven. Boom. We have our mashed potatoes. And I believe we have a bowl for these bad boys. That rhymes if you don't speak Spreckensy English. These guys are hot and delicious, buttery and salty and creamy and amazing. And those are going to go right in here. Wow, steaming pot of the most delicious thing you've ever laid eyes on. Getting really excited. Want to be a fat person right now? Bad. We have our gravy. And because I'm a weirdo, I've got a really cute little gravy pot, which we're going to serve our gravy in. So give it a whisk, make sure it's not lumpy. Put some gravy right in our gravy pot. We can always refill that from the hot pot over there. We have our cranberry sauce, which, God willing, has gelled and is thick and delicious and absolutely perfect. Wowzers. We're going to take our pears, and with our clean hands, we're just going to carefully toss our salad. Dump our pears with the vinaigrette right over the top, right in. And then we're going to carefully shake, 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 mix, 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 and dress our salad with the pears. So we've got this beautiful salad with the pears. And then, just going to wash our hands here. We have a beautiful big salad bowl, which we can plate our salad in. And that looks amazing. And top it with, do not forget, our roasted walnuts. And I always put the walnuts right on top because, you know, they're crunchy and I want them to remain crunchy, and the moisture from the salad and the salad dressing might make them a little soggy, so keeping on top means that everybody's going to get a crunchy bit. And then finally, because Thanksgiving is just giving without the pied de gras, the frickin' turkey people, I've got a trivet because, oh my gosh, my heart is beating about 1,000 beats a second right now as I can just think about sinking my teeth into a slice of dark and white meat. Oven is off. turkey is out. It's moist. It's absolutely perfectly prepared. It's crispy, it's seasoned well. It's Thanksgiving, and it's something to give thanks for. I can't even tell you how excited I am. This is my favorite meal of the year. There was work involved. This was not easy, but there's absolutely nothing that we did here that was unreasonable. Slicing the turkey, I mean, I've done a few hundred of them. It takes some skill and time, but it's definitely something you can achieve. And if it's not something you feel comfortable with, you can just serve your turkey and slice it at the table, and that's fine. Although I don't find it easier to do it at the table than I do it in the kitchen. I hope that you enjoy this meal as much as I do, and I hope you bring so many people as much happiness as this meal is going to bring us right now as we sink our teeth into it. Happy Thanksgiving! Gobble gobble. Let's gobble it down. I hope you've enjoyed this Project Foodie, and I hope you'll join us for more. Be sure to like and subscribe, check us on Instagram, and download the Project Foodie app on the iOS App Store. If you want to make an amazing Thanksgiving dinner, you're going to need the following ingredients. First and foremost, you need to select a great quality turkey. If you want a delicious result, then buying a really good quality, naturally raised, antibiotic and hormone-free turkey. The basic rule of thumb is if you go with a pound per person, you get a little bit more meat than you need, and you'll usually have leftovers. We've got Brussels sprouts, coriander seeds, fresh thyme, carrots, olive oil, honey, a cinnamon stick, garlic, unsalted butter. I always use unsalted butter in recipes because I add salt separately. Lemons, fresh bay leaves. Dried bay leaves work perfectly well. If you can't find fresh bay leaves, feel free to substitute them. Belgian endive, chicken stock, and I prefer to find a natural low sodium version, especially for a gravy where we're going to be reducing our chicken stock. It can get really, really salty if you get a regular chicken stock, so a low sodium version is a great one to go with. We're going to use the giblets from inside the turkey. Orange juice without pulp. Whole fresh cranberries. I happen to have frozen ones because I couldn't find fresh. Whole milk. Skim milk is a really great alternative, but in this case, we actually want the fat in the milk. It's going to add a ton of moisture and flavor to our dish, so go with whole milk. Sugar, a yellow onion, tarragon, sage, Dijon mustard, freshly ground black pepper. For our stuffing, I'm going to use a hearty, rustic, fresh baked bread. You can definitely use stuffing croutons, which work really, really well, especially if you can't find that toothsome bread. And I wouldn't endorse necessarily any one over the other, but I know my dad was a big Pepperidge Farm croutons guy, and his stuffing always tasted great. So choose whichever crouton you prefer, but any of them should work really well. Apples and prunes, apple cider vinegar, a dry white wine. When you talk about dry when referring to wine, it's the sugar content. So a dry white wine means that there's no residual sugar versus a sweet. Maple syrup, frisée, otherwise known as curly endive, if you were wondering, just to complicate things further. Flour, radicchio. Yukon Gold or yellow potatoes. The recipe calls for roasted walnuts. You can buy roasted walnuts in the store. They're roasted with salt. They're delicious. I would absolutely suggest that. In our case, I could not find roasted walnuts in the store, so I had to settle for just plain walnuts. I would like these to be roasted. And I will tell you the secret to roasting walnuts, which is that you need to take the walnuts and roast them. Sweet pears, we want a hard pear because we're going to slice it in the salad. You don't want something overly ripe. Kosher salt, heavy cream, pecan pieces. Don't buy pecan halves because pecan halves are really expensive. The pecan pieces are a lot less expensive, and they're just the broken pieces. We're planning on breaking them anyway, so you might as well use those. Arugula and celery. And I think that should be just about everything you're going to need. So, if you want to make this epic Thanksgiving meal a great success with as little stress as possible, delicious food, and a great time, you're going to need the following tools. We have a roasting pan for our turkey. The most important piece of the puzzle here is that it is large enough to allow us to be able to get our turkey in or out. This one comes with this great rack. I like to elevate the turkey above the pan so that the heat can get around underneath it. They sell turkey roasters in the supermarket. Those are great disposable one-time use items. I happen to have this great big roasting pan, so we're gonna use this. We have a couple of other roasting pans that we're gonna use throughout. A deeper one for making stuffing. We're actually gonna bake the stuffing in there, and you can use, any tray, ideally something nice looking enough that you would want to present it at your Thanksgiving table, because we're going to bake the stuffing in there and we're going to serve it right on there. So maybe a glass baking tray, or this nice metal roaster, any baking tray that's deep enough that you can bake your stuffing in there. A couple of other flat baking trays, cookie trays. We're all going to have slightly different tools, and you don't need to go out and buy a bunch of stuff. It's about figuring out what's going to work. If you have a large saute pan, you can roast in a large saute pan rather than one of these baking trays, but we need something to bake those ingredients. We have a large pot to cook our mashed potatoes in, and a colander that we're going to strain those in. We have a couple of smaller pots, one for gravy and one for cranberry sauce. These all have lids on them. Again, if you don't have all of the perfect pots, like you can make the cranberry sauce in a bigger pot, it's fine. If you don't have a lid, you can always put a plate or a frying pan on there. There are lots of different alternatives. We need a couple of pans. I've got a little one for roasting some nuts in the oven. I've got a bigger one that we're going to use for cooking all of our stuffing vegetables before we bake them together. A meat fork, a knife, and cutting board. We have a wooden spoon and measuring cups and measuring spoons that we're going to need. We've got a tasting spoon for tasting our ingredients throughout, little grater for zesting lemons and that we're gonna season our turkey with. Any grater will do, or if you don't have a grater, you could even just peel the lemon and chop it up, but most people have a grater. We have some parchment paper, and parchment paper is such a great tool because it's gonna allow us to line our baking dishes, which is gonna make the cleaning process so much easier. We have some assorted bowls. I've got a medium, a big, and a small. The deal here is that, we're gonna use a couple of these bowls a couple of times, so we'll be washing throughout. We've got definitely gonna need a large bowl for making for mixing our salad. We're definitely gonna need a large bowl for mixing our stuffing, but we can use the same one and we'll wash it. We're gonna need the smaller and the medium bowls for other miscellaneous stuff throughout. So just have an assortment of bowls ideally handy. A peeler for peeling. A small receptacle for trash or garbage along the way, so I'm not having to constantly go back and forth from the garbage. A metal strainer that's a little bit finer. We're going to strain our gravy through here, and I want to make sure our gravy doesn't have a lot of big chunks of stuff in there, so a finer mesh strainer. A whisk for whisking our vinaigrette. We can also use it for mashing our potatoes. You could use a potato masher. You could use a wooden spoon for mashing your potatoes. We're going to have a chunkier style mashed potatoes, so a whisk should work really well. We have some cling wrap or a saran wrap or whatever you want to call it. And then we have this instant read thermometer, which is a really great tool for cooking a turkey. Turkeys come with that little plastic thing in there, and they say, when it pops out, the turkey's ready. When it pops out, the turkey is overcooked. If that thing pops out, Thanksgiving is no thanks. So an instant read thermometer is a great tool so that throughout the cooking process, we can confidently judge how cooked our turkey is, because overcooked turkey is not so great. Perfectly cooked turkey is like a heavenly epiphany, and I think that should be just about everything you're going to need. Don't be intimidated. I know it seems like a lot, but at the end of the day it'll all make sense, and some of these things are interchangeable, and it's just Thanksgiving. So provided you don't kill your aunt, or maybe if you kill your aunt, it'll be a good thing. This recipe has 6 steps. It should take about 4 hours. Step 1, we're going to get our turkey roasting. Step 2, we want to work on our turkey gravy. Step 3, we're going to work on our stuffing and our cranberry sauce. Step 4, we're going to work on our Brussels sprouts and our mashed potatoes. Step 5, we're going to prepare our salad. And then step 6, we're going to carve our turkey, finish the gravy, plate and serve everything.